Okay. Hello, Glennis.
Good evening. How are you?
Okay. 1, 2. Okay.
So we are on live stream, so that's all set up whenever we're ready to go. And just so that you're all aware, we're joined, we're going to be joined by Martha Mahoney tonight, and she's going to be stepping in as our new representative from Corporation Counsel.
Okay. I see Rob McGee.
Hello.
There you are, Martha Mahoney. Hello.
Hi, nice to see you.
Okay. We're just waiting for Chris. We'll wait another minute and then we'll start with the preliminaries at least.
Al, you'll be happy to notice I'm no longer blue.
Okay. You must have special powers with that computer of yours.
Yeah, it's called, I don't know what it's doing or why it's doing it.
Okay. All right, I think we'll get started. Good evening, everyone. This is a meeting of the Albany City Planning Board for May 24th. I would like to introduce the group that's currently here on Zoom. We have Roman Kuchera, a member of the board, Rob McGee, Corporation Counsel, Martin Hull, member of the board, Zach Powell, senior planner and staffing our meeting tonight, Glenissa Gayard, member of the board, and Christopher Ellis, member of the board. Also would like to welcome Martha Mahoney, who will be our new corporation counsel. And this will be our first meeting, so welcome, Martha. I will go over the rules of procedure that the board has adopted and then turn it over to Zach for more specifics as to how to participate. The process will be that the board will hear applications and we will hear them from the applicants directly. The applicants have 10 minutes to present unless they have presented before, and then we would ask them to present only 6 minutes. After that, the board will have questions, comments to ask for the applicant. And then after that, the board will take either recommendations from the professional staff or, depending on the issue, will ask for comments from the public if there are any. After that, the presenter will have 5 minutes to respond to any inaccuracies or perhaps respond to questions that may have arisen during the comment period. And then after that, the board will move on, either taking action or deferring till the next meeting. Members of the public will have 3 minutes to speak. If common council members wish to speak, they will have 6 minutes, as they will be representing the larger constituency beyond just individuals. Zach, if you can, indicate please to the public how they will have timing situated.
Great, thanks, Al. So I know a few people have already signed up to speak via email, but if you haven't signed up to speak already, you can send a chat message to me during the meeting, and I'll put you on the speakers list. When it gets time for the public comment section for an application, again, feel free to sign up ahead of time, but you can sign up at that point as well. When it's your turn to speak, we'll give you the ability to speak, either if you're joining us on the phone or if you're joining through Zoom, you can be able to turn on your camera as well. If you're joining by phone and you would like to speak on a certain application, you can press *9 to raise your hand, and we can call on you during that time for the public comment period. When you'll be speaking, we'll have a countdown timer on the screen, so you'll know how much time you have left. That'll provide an audible reminder when you have 30 seconds left, and also an audible reminder when your time has expired. And if you have any other questions or difficulties with Zoom or being able to sign up to speak, feel free to send us a chat message during the meeting and we will get to you. And we just had a panelist ask how a speaker unmutes to speak. So if you're joining through Zoom, I will give you the functionality to be able to speak when it's your turn for the speakers list. And then if you're joining by phone, you might also have to press *6 to unmute yourself.
Okay, and I also want to mention that we have a very, very full agenda tonight. It's a substantial one. There are a number of items, and I would ask that if the speakers that may want to address it, and that includes the applicants themselves, I would ask that you keep your comments fairly succinct so we can get through this agenda at a decent hour. There are at least 10 items on the agenda tonight. And if the speakers from the public have comments that have already been mentioned, I would just ask that you might just want to mention that you already agree with the previous person or disagree, but not necessarily repeat everything. Okay, with that, the first part of our meeting is a public hearing. An official public hearing, as we have a number of conditional uses to review. The first item on the agenda is conditional use number 0041, which is 336 Clinton Avenue. The applicant is TAGA Associates. The representing agent is Keith Kramer. And the request is to permit the conversion of a 2-family townhouse into a 3-family townhouse. This was reviewed by the planning board at its workshop meeting 2 weeks ago, but this is the first that we have seen it at a public hearing. Is the applicant ready to address the board?
Yeah, so I just gave the ability for Mr. Kramer and Ms. Gill to speak. So Keith and Marie, you should be able to unmute yourselves at this time and turn on your cameras if you're joining with the ability to turn on cameras.
And also Frank Taylor is here too. He will be speaking.
How are you, Zach?
Perfect. Good, how are you?
Good, sir.
Good. Can you hear us?
Good.
Yes.
Yep, so I'm gonna start the timer for 10 minutes and feel free to start whenever you're ready.
Do you want to start, Marie?
I think Frank is going to start, okay?
Okay. First of all, hello to the board. This is our first time here. I'm kind of excited about that in the town of Albany. We're talking about 336 Clinton Avenue. It's a townhouse that would conform to the rest of the area of Clinton Avenue. About 2 years ago, when we started TAGA, which was to house homeless veterans and women of domestic abuse in quality housing, we looked at things, and there was another company up here. What was the name of the company, Marie? Home Leasing.
Yeah.
And they had done probably about 100 of these things on Clinton Avenue and changed everything from 2 to 3 units. And that's what we came along and did. We also own several other properties up here. We're working on 10 Hall Place at this time. We completed 370 and 372, which was the same type of project. And that's who we house, and that's what we do. That's a little capsule of what's going on here now.
Next slide.
Next slide, I believe. As you see, the building to the left is 336, which is the one in question. We bought this with that same purpose for that block. As you see there, the height is good in the basement, which we call the first floor, second floor, and third floor of this building. Next slide, please. Okay, I'm going to give this over to Keith at this time.
Okay, this is the basement floor. Pretty much as we found it, it was an apartment when we got it. It was in pretty bad shape. But again, part of the reason why we went for this building is because it had the 3 apartments. And this happens to be the largest of all the apartments, and it is quite a small building. This has access through the front sidewalk and then out to the backyard also. There's a lot of windows for the basement, and it's a full 8-foot ceiling. Windows match all the criterion for a basement apartment. And we thought it was an apartment, so we thought it was a 3-unit house. The reason this is the largest of the apartments, there's a little back foyer, and we removed the stairs from the first floor to the basement, which created that front foyer where we have our heating closet and our bathroom, and that all would have been staircase previously. Now, I believe at the workshop, there was questions about the location of the heating units. They were on there, they weren't marked. I went back and highlighted them and put a label on them in red there. Each unit has its own heating closet within the unit for those little wall mount Navion systems. Next floor. See, that gets quite a bit smaller when we add in the stairwell and the foyers, but still, for the purpose that Frank and Marie have for rentals, we feel it's very important to have the 2 bedrooms, because in their plan, renting to a single person is not part of the program. So on this floor, to make the 2 bedrooms work, we had to remove the center window on the back, but all bedroom sizes still meet the criteria for light and ventilation for a single window. And they are small. I heard that from the workshop. They are small, but that's the size of our building. You see the heating closet there too, basically in the old stairwell. And next floor. Same thing, pretty much similar plan here. Heating closet was in the stairwell, but we moved the door up to this line of the stair railing. So now that closet is in the apartment. And that's about it. Pretty simple, pretty common layout for Clinton Avenue.
Okay. Are you finished with the presentation?
Yes, unless there's questions for me.
Okay. Does the board have any questions to the applicants? Okay, hearing none. We'll entertain any testimony from the public. Is there anybody that wants to testify and has signed up?
Not so
Zach?
far. I'll give it a few seconds just to see if anyone's looking to sign up, but yeah, no comments.
Okay, Zach, I know that you have some comments, the staff has comments regarding the project. I know that in looking at this, we have some criteria that we have to review, but if you can go through it fairly quickly, we would appreciate it, since this is pretty typical conversion for the conditional use in the RT district.
Yep, sure thing. So I'll try and be brief. The applicant just also provided some photos just showing what the interior of the proposed unit looks like as well. So just wanted to put that on a slide, since that was shared to planning staff and the board, but just if members of the public had interest in seeing what the condition of the unit looks like as of now. These conversion criteria to add a unit within an existing townhouse were presented at the previous planning board meeting, or excuse me, the planning board workshop. So I will just quickly touch as a reminder that for conversions, the buildings have to have at least 3 stories. This current unit or proposed unit meets the requirement for a story, which just requires that less than 4 feet can be below grade for a proposed story, which it is, because it is only 31 inches below grade. The applicant's not proposing any exterior changes in order to accommodate said unit. They are looking to receive a certificate of appropriateness administratively for the replacement of windows and other exterior modifications. The existing units occupy more than 80% of each of the single floor plates, and the confirmation for the location of the utilities has just again confirmed this. And the lowest story is more than 50% above grade, since the height of the unit is 98 inches and 67 inches are above grade, which comes out to 68%. So this also is going for conditional use permit, and there are 7 review criteria for that. So I will again go through those relatively quickly. The first is if the project is consistent with the USDO and the city code, which it is. Whether the project would result in a random pattern of development. The applicant's proposing to renovate an existing structure without any exterior modifications. And there are similar 1 to 3 family townhouses nearby, so this is not going to create a random pattern of development. This is a type 2 action under the State Environmental Quality Review Act. And since there are similar townhouses nearby, this is not going to create any negative fiscal or environmental impacts on adjacent property owners. The property is located in an RT zoning district, and that is what the proposed use is. So this aligns with the purpose and objectives of the district, and it meets all of the conversion criteria to add a unit. There are not any conditional uses within the immediate vicinity of the subject property, so there aren't really any harmful cumulative effects or impacts for similar conditional uses within the area. And then the 6th comment is that the project would not place excessive burden on public improvements, facility services, or utilities. There are existing utility connections and services that support the neighborhood, so the addition of a residential unit would not place a burden on these existing services. And then the last is whether it provides a necessary and desirable service that's in the interest of the public convenience. It's providing a unit and renovating, contributing historic structure, and it's adding an updated market rate housing unit in the West Hill neighborhood, which is not seen as much development as other neighborhoods within the city. And we have someone signed up who would like to speak. So I can allow that person the ability to speak. So bear with me just 1 second while I pull their name from the list. Mr. Markovics, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, bear with me just 1 second while I switch over to the timer function for this. Okay, and whenever you're ready, you can begin.
Okay, my name is Roger Markovics. I live at 38 Myrtle Avenue, and I've been in Albany for 51 years, 2 years maybe, and I've been a long involvement with nonprofit housing organizations, including United Tenants of Albany. Currently, I'm on the board of the Albany Community Land Trust. I'm secretary of the board, and the Land Trust was formed 33 years ago. We've done over 100 units of rental and home ownership opportunities. And the Land Trust owns 338 and 340 Clinton Avenue, just as you're looking at the pictures of the buildings, they're just to the right of it. And we have always used the alleyway between 336 Clinton and 338 Clinton to access the backyards of our buildings. That's because the 336 building had been foreclosed on, I don't know how many times. Actually, the buildings we got 10 years ago had been after a foreclosure. So we didn't have any. We just used it. It was an informal thing, handshake thing. When the land bank acquired a building, they just continued it. Now with the different ownership, they're very. Tiger is very concerned about security in their yard, and we respect that, and we like what they're doing, and so we're not opposing the change from 3 to 2 units, but we do want to have permanent access to the backyards of the Land Trust buildings. The Land Trust is not just an average, normal nonprofit housing organization. We are about permanent affordability in all our units. And that means we've already been around 33 years. The board of directors represents represents the community and the broader public at large, as well as Land Trust residents. And so tripartite, 1/3 residents of the Land Trust, 1/3 neighborhood owners and tenants, and the final third general public. And so we're in this for the long haul, and we want to have a permanent easement of some sort, and because we will probably outlast whoever will be in owning 336. And I wish all the helps, all the good luck to TAGA in doing their building, and whatever we can be helpful and supportive. We want to be good neighbors, but we just want to see that protected. We don't want to be subject to the whims of some future owner saying, "Oh no, you can't use this anymore." It's bad public policy to prevent organizations to be able to get, or owners to get to the back of a building to do rehab or maintenance.
All right, thank you. Question to the applicants, is this something that can be worked out with the Community Land Trust? This is something that I think it's been on the table for a while.
Okay, may I answer that, sir?
Yeah, I was asking the applicants.
Oh, okay, yes. Okay, this is.
And
this
you
is
have 5 minutes anyway to respond.
All right, wonderful. Again, thank you to the board. Roger, and I use his first name because we've actually met for the first time last week, even though we had emails that stopped from their side 8 months ago. I don't want to really get into that, back and forth. We stated to him with our attorney there, because they use their attorney, that we are going to be good neighbors. We have friends that are in his group. So at TAGA, we believe in being good neighbors, and we've already said to him that we would work this out. What Roger wants us to do is actually put him on the deed and to have this at easement. That's a gray area for us. But in our conversations, we've always said that we'd be good neighbors, that you could always get through there, just call a day before or whatever, and you can get through the alleyway. And as far as using it for your side or whatever you want to do. I don't even know why this is a planning board issue, to be perfectly honest with you, as it was explained to him in depth by our attorney, Mr. Christopher Dent, last, what was it, Wednesday or Thursday?
Yeah.
We all met. So I don't, I'm at a loss here. Why would this be part of the planning board?
Well, it's part because this is a conditional use request and the planning board can impose conditions and that could be one of them.
Okay. All right. Well, as I stated to the board and everyone else, you could check our track record that we've had the last 2 years up here, and we've been good neighbors with everyone that we've had. And I don't see a reason why that would stop now.
Are there any further comments by the board? Any questions to the applicants?
Hi, Al, this is Glenisa.
Yes.
I tend to agree with the applicant that this is something that the Community Land Trust and the applicant should work out. I understand it's a conditional use permit and we're giving them permission, if we choose to do so, to conditionally use the land in a certain way. But at the end of the day, it's still their land. And I sort of caution us to get into actual land disputes and how land is to be used between two neighbors that are using, both who are using their land in the correct manner in which it's zoned for. I just feel uncomfortable with us trying to impose something on a landowner for use of their property for another landowner. That's just something I think it's a slippery slope for us. That's just my opinion. And maybe corporation counsel can opine on that a little bit more, but that's a red flag for me.
Thank you. Mr. McGee, would you comment, please? What is your thought?
Yeah, if you want to give me a moment, I'm going to look at the USDO, and I can advise the board in just a moment about what kind of conditions the board can impose. I mean, I think your discretion is pretty broad, but I want to double check to make sure that,
Okay.
So I just want to make sure. So if you just give me 2 minutes, I'll get back to you.
Yeah, now I would just add on that, Glenisa's thinking on that is, in line with a lot of what the USDO is, because, as the city, we don't enforce private covenants. There are some instances where we promote a cross access easement, or sometimes an easement if maybe it's the only way that a neighboring property owner can have ingress or egress to a site. That's not really the situation that's happening right now. And I think a lot of times when a cross access easement is proposed, it's for the public benefit or good to reduce the amount of traffic within city roads. So really, there's not a public benefit, and the relationship between the easement that the neighbors are seeking relative to the addition of a proposed residential unit doesn't really exist in this case. So I would also tend to agree with Glenisa's opinion on this.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other questions or comments from the board?
I just want to chime in. I agree with Glenisa's interpretation as well.
Rob, did you?
Oh yeah, I just want to say I agree with Glenisa after I'm looking at the code. And
oh, okay. I didn't know that was you were speaking. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Any further issues? Any further questions? Okay, the recommendation by the staff is approval.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Roman Kuchera. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Glenessa Giard. And Purpose would be to convert 336 Clinton Avenue from a 2 to a 3 unit building. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to the board. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the second item on the agenda, also under the public hearing, is another conditional use request. And this is a conditional use 0042 at 204 Washington Avenue. The applicant is Roger David. And this is a request to occupy an approximately 1,600 square foot property as a hookah lounge in a mixed-use neighborhood center. The property is close to the corner of Lark Street and Washington Avenue. This is the first time on the official planning board agenda. We did see the proposal, however, in the workshop 2 weeks ago. Is the applicant available?
Yep. So Roger, you can unmute yourself. And I'm not sure if there's anyone else joining you, but feel free to let me know if I should add anyone else.
Hey, Zach, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hey, so yeah, no one's joining me. I'll present once you guys are ready.
Yep. Feel free to start whenever you're ready.
Well, good evening, board members. As Zach alluded to, I am representing Puff Hookah Lounge at 204 Washington Avenue. We're right at the corner of Lark and Washington Ave. We are in the zoning district of MUNC for neighborhood center, and we are here to obtain conditional use permit. Our goal is to have the property used as a hookah lounge, which is under bar or tavern. A little bit of background on me. My brother Tavish and Roger are going into partnership, and just want to give some background on us. He works at Regeneron Pharmaceuticals. He's been in the area for 16 years. Graduated from Albany High and then went to Siena and graduated with a bachelor's degree in finance. He has a background in corporate finance, supply chain, and IT services. For myself, I work out at Momentive. Lived in Albany for 16 years. I also graduated from Hudson Valley and Associates in IT. My background primarily has been in the airline industry. I worked there for years before joining Momentive and learning the tech work operations there. I think the goal of this slide was to show that we've been in the area for 16 years. This is our home. Been part of Lark Street social life for most of my life. So we want to be part of the prosperous economy here and be part of the growing business, at least locally for us. So Zach, do I have the ability to move my mouse and talk through this, or I don't?
I can use a pointer. So if you're just indicating something, you can just say it verbally and I can do that.
All right, so yes, I'll start with the going from left to right. So if you look at the picture all the way to the left, that is our storefront. Once you get into the middle of the slide, you'll see a Mamoon's restaurant to the right of us. And then to the right of that is a private parking lot. Now on the third picture, you'll see a building right to the left of us. It is vacant. So I think it's been vacant for quite a long time now. And then the top right is just an illustration of zoning, and we're right in the neighborhood center and just relative to where the site is. And the bottom right picture is just another illustration of just showing you that we're right at the cross street of Washington and Lark. So yeah, I think some of the questions, at least from my emails with Zach, is just highlighting like there is no parking lot here, so a lot of our parking would be utilized with the street parking. There's ample amount of parking space, at least right across from us, maybe a half a block to the left of us on Washington Ave, and there's quite a few parking ability on Lark Street as well. And right behind us, it is a one-way street that has also public parking as well. This is the proposed floor plan. I'll again start from the left going to the right. So the front door, as soon as you walk out, you're entering into Washington Ave. And then this is just a open space currently. And our proposal is to have a open concept. So a hookah lounge I'm not sure how familiar the board members are, but it is just a restaurant type of environment. And our goal is to have a open space. So the design is to have benches that are only 35 inches high, to have a open flow and open feel for customers to come in and gather. As we come out of this pandemic, I know things are a little tough now, but our goal is to have a open concept environment. And what you see in front of you is just going to be benches that are scattered throughout the lounge. Right now, it's just a big open space. We are going to scatter them accordingly. We do have, we are getting these custom built once we do get the approval to move forward. And what you'll see to the back, it's going to be a small display and a cash register as well. And the next slide. And I after talking to Zach, I know there was some questions around how we're going to get some occupancy details on. So what I did is I basically took the last floor plan, eliminated a lot of the noise, and what you see in front of you is just seating areas assigned by A, B, C, D, E, F. And right now, based on the calculation, we're anticipating having 87 seats for customers. Just to give you an example, seating area A is a 6x6, and we're utilizing that space for 9 customers. The same logic was applied to all the seating areas around us to get to the same conclusion what you see in front of you. And yeah, that's what I have thus far, at least from my side. And I'm sure if there's some questions I'd love to answer.
Can you point out the bathrooms?
Yeah, so the bathrooms would be all the way at the back. So yeah, so I'm sorry, I couldn't see it. There was the video thing right in front of me. So yeah, the bathrooms are located in the back of the building. There's 2 of them that we're going to utilize. And this was an existing smoke shop, so we're not doing any major renovation. We're just going to take an existing property and basically bring in our couches and utilize the space that way.
Any questions from the board?
So if you're actually looking at total seating for 87 customers, does your building footprint go all the way back to Spring Street? Is that where you'll be servicing the property, and where would all those customers park? I know you said adequate parking on Spring and Lark and Washington, but you might want to address that in a little more detail, because I have tried to park there on many occasions and I didn't find it as easy as you seem to imply.
Yeah, so right now, our property don't go all the way back to Spring Street. There is a garage that divides our building with a separate unit that's behind us. So yes, our building is maybe halfway through, and then there's a garage that separates us. Yeah, the parking can be a challenge, but I mean, being so close to Lark Street, our goal is to attract a lot of foot traffic personnel. We do have a bus stop right in front of us and also right across the street on Lark Street. Our goal is to attract people either through carpooling or, I mean, I can't control that, but I think our primary goal is to attract foot traffic. As you know, we are in a foot traffic area.
Okay, and hours of operation?
So we have, I think it was 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. from Monday through Saturday, and then Sunday we're looking to go from 7 to midnight.
In reference to parking, I believe that there's no parking requirement in this particular zone. Is that right, Zach?
There's no parking requirement just because the lot is under 5,000 square feet in area. So that exempts it from having to provide any off-street parking.
Thanks. Other questions from the board? Okay. Are there anybody who wants to speak to this?
No one has signed up so far. I'm happy to go through the review criteria if someone is trying to sign up in the current moment.
Okay.
Okay. So the application was referred to the Albany County Planning Board for their meeting last week on the 20th, and they modified local approval to require the applicant to provide to ensure that restroom facilities would be provided to meet New York State Building Code standards, I think just the applicant hadn't submitted a floor plan showing the entirety of the unit, but there are restroom facilities within the building. So it is aligning with those requirements and with the recommendations of the Albany County Planning Board. I'll move through the conditional use permit requirements again, the first being that the project complies with all relevant USDO and city code standards. Whether the project is a random pattern of development, it's locating inside an existing commercial unit that was previously used for a smoke shop and smaller hookah lounge. So this is aligning with the character and pattern of development within the neighborhood. The third is whether it's going to create any negative fiscal or environmental impacts. This is classified as a type 2 action under seeker, and all odors would not permeate or extend beyond the proposed unit. So this is not going to result in any negative impacts for adjacent property owners. The fourth review criteria is about the zone district and how it relates and meets any specific use standards. This property is located in a mixed-use neighborhood center zoning district, which provides for a mixture of residential options, local retail, and smaller scale commercial uses, which this is a smaller scale commercial use. It would serve as only one of 2 hookah lounges within the entire city. And it also meets the use specific standards for hours of operation within the MUNC zoning district for a bar or tavern or any other restaurant use, which just requires that the use close by 2 a.m. The fifth review criteria is whether it would result in any harmful cumulative effects or impacts of similar conditional uses. The closest bar or taverns and conditional uses are not hookah lounges, and their uses, the closest conditional uses are LAX and Pint Size, as well as the Armory, which is located across the street. Which those don't present conflicts for the operation of these uses, and within the immediate area, the allowance for the proposed hookah lounge would not exacerbate any negative impacts or result in cumulative effects for all of these related conditional uses. The sixth is whether it would place any burden on public improvements, facilities, services, or utilities. This is, again, an existing commercial unit and building that has utility connections and is supported by existing transit nearby and on-street and off-street parking options. And the seventh is whether this is necessary and desirable service that's in the interest of the public convenience. Again, this is only going to be one of 2 hookah lounges within the city, so that serves the public convenience providing for an additional option for residents within the city. And it's an easily accessible option, as the applicant mentioned, because it's located near a bus stop. It's in an area that's supported by good sidewalks and bicycle connectivity, and there are options for private parking within the immediate vicinity.
Thank you for that. Any questions to the staff? Okay, hearing none, the recommendation of the staff on this project is to approve. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the conditional use request.
So moved.
Moved by Roman Kuchera. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Okay, seconded by Martin Hall. Further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you very much, Mr. David.
Thank you. Have a good day, board members.
The next item on the agenda is conditional use number 0043, and this is 39 Columbia Street. The proposal is requesting for a conditional use to occupy approximately 6,400 square feet of number 39 Columbia Street as a school. Again, this is a first time on the planning board agenda. However, we did see it on the planning board workshop 2 weeks ago. Jeff Buell is the applicant for Redburn Development. Jeff?
And I actually just elevated Joe, who works for Redburn Development, to a panelist. Joe, did you want me to elevate Jeff as well?
I think that's okay. I think I can handle this one. Thank you, Zach. If you
Okay.
could elevate Diane Nickerson, please. She is
Yep.
founder and director of Castle Island, and she'll be joining me.
That sounds very royal, Zach, to elevate. Interesting.
Wordsmithing.
Well, good evening to the board. As you mentioned, we are here for a conditional use permit at 39 Columbia Street, which is an existing mixed-use building in the downtown district. We are requesting a conditional use permit to occupy a school on the first floor. Quick look at the site there. Building starts on Columbia Street and extends all the way back to Van Trump. It includes the lot there bordered by Broadway and Von Trump. This is an overview of the site. That parking lot has been paved and is already striped and is in use. If you can go to the next slide, Zach, I think it zooms in a little bit. There we go. So you'll see the school entrance called out right there. The building common entrance is a little bit below that, but that dedicated entrance is for the school only. Parents will enter the lot via Broadway, the lower gate in the bottom right hand corner. Yep, right there. And then we'll exit on the Van Trump side on the top left. And the on-ramp on the 787 is right there. So a very convenient location. You're good, Zach. Here's a floor plan of the first floor at 39 Columbia. You can see the entrance over there to the right. When they walk in, they'll have a coat closet and some cubbies for the kids. They'll come around the corner to the reception. And then we have a library plan for right there. And as you move through the space into an open area and some classrooms, we have 2 dedicated restrooms for the school, and they'll also have access to common building restrooms over there on the left. Perfect. Got a few photos here for you. This is the lot as it stood a few weeks ago. You can see it's paved and striped with the fence already up. That entrance with the blue awning is the common building entrance, and the school entrance is just beyond that to the left. The next photo might have a better shot of the entrance, Zach. Yeah, down there on the bottom right, behind that parked car, we actually just replaced that door with a half-light glass door that is more welcoming. And at this point, I will turn it over to Diane, and she can tell you a little bit more about the school itself.
Good evening, members of the board. I'm Diane Nickerson. I'm the school director and the authorized representative of our nonprofit organization. This is maybe our second or third time to have the privilege to present for you as we continue to grow now in our 9th year. We have been searching for an appropriate and sort of a state-of-the-art facility that matches the educational offering that we provide. And so we're really excited to be offered a partner with Redburn and for a proposed relocation to 39 Columbia. And closer to 7:30 to 5:30. We anticipate for the fall 50 students ranging from age 3 and pre-kindergarten through age 6, grade 6, 12-year-old children. Is there parking information on the next slide? Perhaps I can talk about drop off and pick up.
I think that was it on the slides.
That's it.
I can go back to that.
Answer any other questions? So the parking lot is fenced and gated, and the parents will have a fob that will be activated only during drop off and pickup times. So between 7:30 and 8:30 in the morning to 3:30 for full day students, And then at the end of the day for aftercare, which is from 3:15 to 5:30, parents will have an ability to use the keypad to call into the school for us to open up the gate. And they'll drive in through the parking lot. There's sort of a driveway through the parking lot and stop it directly in front of the entrance, where there is actually a sidewalk from the door to that drive path. And so that's where children will be met at drop off in the morning by a staff to be walked into the school. And at the end of the day, the children will be standing with staff to be picked up by their parents who will wait in a car line and then exit, as Joe mentioned, out of the Von Trump exit.
Okay. Is that the end of your presentation?
Joe, do you have other comments to make?
Nope, I think we're good. We're here to answer any questions you might have.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Okay. Is there anybody who wants to speak on this issue, Zach?
No one signed up to speak.
Okay. The staff has recommendations related to this.
Yep, I'll go through this quickly. This is our third and last conditional use permit application for the evening. The first comment is whether the application is consistent with any provisions of the USDO, which it is, consistent with all USDO provisions and city code provisions. Second is whether it would create a random pattern of development. Again, this is the third conditional use permit application where the applicant is locating within an existing building. And the proposed use as a small school is not going to impact the character of the surrounding area. Again, while primarily the character of the neighborhood is more office-related uses, it provides a convenient option for families who may be carpooling to work and school, and has the potential to reduce the number of vehicle trips made during peak travel hours. The third is whether it would create any negative impacts. Again, this is a type 2 action since this is a renovation of an existing structure. And again, given that the operations are Monday through Friday and relatively low impact, this is not going to create any negative environmental impacts on the surrounding neighborhood. The fourth is whether it's consistent with the purpose and objective of the zone district. This is a mixed-use downtown zoning district, and it provides for a wide range of uses, which the school would fall under. And again, it's locating within an existing historic structure and is reusing an existing historic structure. And it meets the purpose and objective of the district, and there are no use-specific standards for schools at this time. The fifth is whether it would result in any harmful cumulative effects or impacts of aggregate similar conditional uses. The closest conditional uses are surface parking lots. So again, given that they are very different uses and they wouldn't present any conflicts, this is not going to result in any harmful cumulative effects. The sixth is whether it would place any excessive burden on public improvements, facilities, services, or utilities. This is an existing property that has existing utility connections, and the applicant will be provided with parking spaces that are designated for the proposed school, and there's areas that are off-street for loading and unloading, so it's not going to create any negative impacts on city facilities. And then the last is whether the school is a necessary and desirable service that's in the interest of the public convenience. It provides an educational option when the closest schools are located about 0.9 miles away in either direction. So it is providing a service within close proximity to people who live within the downtown neighborhood, and it provides an opportunity for reducing vehicle trips by potentially allowing families to carpool together into downtown Albany for their future commutes. Or if they already live in downtown Albany, it provides another option for people not to commute out of downtown in order to drop their kids off at school.
Questions for the staff? Okay, hearing none. I would entertain a motion to approve. The recommendation is to approve the conditional use permit for the school.
So moved.
I heard a second move.
I'll second. Yep, I'll be the second.
Sounds good.
Who moved it?
Me, Martin.
Thank you. Okay, Martin Hall moved, Roman Cuchero second. Further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Okay, it's approved unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
That ends the public hearing part of the meeting. We now move into the regular public meeting agenda. And the first item on the agenda for the public meeting is number 0081. This is 11 Spring Street. The applicant is 166 Washington LLC, and the request is for a major development plan review for the construction of a 5-story, approximately 14,000 square foot multifamily dwelling with 19 units. This is in a mixed use community urban. And this is something that we saw quite a while ago in September of 2019. It was held up, unfortunately, due to some issues concerning fire regulations related to electric and utility poles. The applicant ready to speak?
Yes, and Glenisa, sorry about that. I was trying to transition the people who previously were presenting over, so apologies for that.
No
Dan, I
worries.
think you're Dan, you're signed in under multiple lists. I think I might be getting an echo right now. Let's see. Florida. Apologies. It looks like I tried to elevate people and they're didn't transition. So bear with me just 1 second. Sorry about that.
The beauty of Zoom.
Yeah. Dan, are you there? All right, I'm going to try. Apologies, everyone. There's 3 people listed as Dan, so just trying to cover all bases, and I think I just picked the wrong first 2. So. Dan, are you there?
I'm here and I'm muted. I'm here.
Perfect. I should have elevated Florida, though I'm not seeing her show up, so I don't know if something happened there. Was it just going to be you presenting, or?
I can handle the presentation. If I need Florida, we'll try to find her.
Okay. So feel free to start whenever you're ready.
Yeah, Dan Hirschberg, the firm of Hirschberg and Hirschberg. We're concerned about 11 Spring Street, which is owned by 166 Washington Avenue LLC. This is a portion of a property that's currently known as 166 Washington. It's the rear portion that faced on Spring Street. And when we were here back in December, the project hasn't changed since then. In the interim, we went through a long discussion and effort to satisfy a fire condition that really didn't apply to our site. There's something in what's called Appendix D, which talks about not having fire aerial access to a building have to go over power lines. The city of Albany never adopted Appendix D, so it did not apply, and that was determined by Dan Sherman on behalf of the building and codes. So the plan stays pretty much it is. If you want to go through the next slide. This is the existing site. It's this parking lot, which is which is behind 166 Washington Avenue. And here's a look at it from location. And 166 is the building here and the adjoining building, and they both have access out of the building to Spring Street. The existing survey shows the existing site. It's the next slide. It shows existing parking lot and usage statistics, which is primarily all impervious. And the next slide shows the proposed site plan. Proposed site coverage doesn't make it huge, but we do have 10.8% impervious, pervious area. And the alleyway down the sides provide access to the rear building. We do want to close the curb cut, and previously we came up with plans. We worked with Niagara Mohawk and Verizon and a whole bunch of other utilities to try to see what it takes to get their wires either underground or moved across the street until we determined that that wasn't necessary. Next. This is the building elevation view. The windows look remarkably blue because that's how they render. But that's the building elevation from Spring Street. The Albany County Planning Board voted to deny the project based upon 2 fire code elements, which are contained in Appendix D, which don't apply to the site. I think Zach might be prepared to discuss those, but their denial was not based upon the facts and evidence. And they also mentioned a lack of parking, but Zach pointed out to them that this is a lot of less than 5,000 square feet and off-street parking is not required and none is provided. And I don't know whether there might be another slide. Yeah, this shows the street context. There's a county building next door, the other building, and this sort of fits in with the parameters of the site. And I have a first floor plan, which shows, the next sheet is a first floor plan, which shows the building, and there are units on the first floor. And there are a total of 19 units in the project. And after that, I'm prepared to answer any questions which the board may have. Thank you very much.
Any questions from the board?
What are the sizes of the various units? Is it a variety or?
They're variety. But they're all studio or 1 bedroom.
Okay.
Dan, I can't remember but what was the discussion about parking for the tenants?
The tenant, most of these spots are currently leased to New York State workers and not for the tenants of 166 Washington. So they'll obviously lose the income. The target market for this, it's not restricted housing at all, but the target market for this is disabled people primarily, or elderly people with some with disabilities. We're not set up for that. It's just an area that the applicant has a distinct interest in providing. Whether or not it'll fill up with those people, obviously there's less demand for parking. This area is picked because the need for people to have their own cars is limited. We have wonderful access to CDTA routes on Washington Avenue. And we think the demand for parking for these units will be significantly less than it would for the normal market rate apartments.
Further questions? Are there any speakers? Zach?
Yeah, there's one speaker, and just based on the public comments we've received, I'm just going to give it a little bit of time because I think there'll be people that would like to sign up So bear with me just 1 second as I transition over to the timer, and we can see if there are any other speakers that would like to present as well.
I would mention to the board that a letter was sent from the Capitol Hill Improvement Corporation to the board. I hope you had an opportunity to read that. Zach sent it yesterday.
Okay, so the only person that is signed to speak so far is Sherry Duvall. So Sherry, you should be able to unmute yourself on Zoom.
Yes, I am unmuted. You probably can hear the trash truck.
I can't, so that's good. But feel free to start whenever you're ready.
Good evening. My name is Sherry Duvall, and I live at 8 Spring Street, Albany, New York. I thank you for the opportunity to address the board today regarding project 00321. This proposal goes against the planning board's mission statement. This proposal is not aesthetically sensitive to this area where the surrounding residential structures are turn of the century, brick and brownstone, are half as large, and consist mostly of carriage houses, garages, and row houses. It is not compatible to the development of immediate neighborhood because this section does not benefit from the parking permit system, and adding 19 tenants will only compound the difficult parking situation. The negative impact on parking will lessen the value of other parcels because people are reluctant to invest where there is no parking. Without parking, existing landlords will also struggle to find renters. Ms. Santana Jonas stated that our focus is going to be more 55 and older and those who are intellectually and developmentally disabled who have a lesser need for a vehicle and parking. Yet, the plan is to offer market rate apartments, which signifies people who likely have vehicles. It should be noted that the owner is only exempt from the requirement to provide parking by splitting the lot in order to remain under 5,000 square feet. Otherwise, the city code would need to be upheld. It seems as though we have found a loophole here. Also, no modifications are on the plans making the units accessible for disabled individuals, nor are supports for their welfare in place to allow for their successful residency. The county board disapproved this proposal due to fire apparatus violations and the parking concerns addressed by residents. While Appendix D of the State Fire Code has not been adopted by the City of Albany, I would hope that all structures would still be required to meet those codes and that there would be a greater value placed on safety than on appeasing a real estate investor. Ms. Santana Jonas has stated that she knows there are concerns over where tenants of the apartment building will park. She stated if she could provide some parking, she would love to. She has invited people to give her solutions, and she said she would explore everything that is thrown to her. So I would like to suggest this parcel be left as a parking lot since it already serves a need in this community. If for some reason there must be a building, then a carriage house would be more appropriate. This gives needed parking for tenants and a more suitably sized structure that would be appropriate in this historic neighborhood. I would hope that Ms. Santana Jonas would be sensitive and respectful to the needs and desires of her neighbors by not building something that everyone will resent. The county and city planning boards have received many communications from the residents who are against this proposal. The board's mission statement does not say the goal is to ensure that codes and regulations are met and plans approved without consideration of the needs of the residents. Therefore, I urge you to uphold your mission statement and listen to the residents who have made it clear that they oppose this project. The county planning board has already determined this plan to not be appropriate for the neighborhood, and I hope the city follows suit and rejects this plan. Thank you.
Any other speakers?
Okay. Yes, there's one other, and Rhea, I think you're signed in as Dan, but I think you're an applicant. There will be an opportunity for a follow-up comment for the applicant. So bear with me just 1 second. Ms. Lundgren, are you there? Ms. Lundgren, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep, feel free to start whenever you're ready.
All right, thank you. My name's Julie Lundgren, 51 Winthrop Avenue. And my issues echo the issues with parking, even though it's not required to provide parking for this size of the building. I agree that taking away the parking lot and adding to the burden of this neighborhood is a problematic. Also, given that it's 5 stories, excuse me, even though one of the adjacent buildings is taller, it blocks the windows of the adjacent smaller home. So I think that adds to the impacts. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
And there are no other speakers at this time.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. Someone raised their hand, so bear with me just one second. Mr. Hickson, are you there?
Thank you, Zach. Am I audible?
Yep. Feel free to start whenever you're ready.
Thank you, sir. Richard Hickson. I am a member of the St. Andrew Society at 150 Washington Avenue. I would also like to point out that the building on the corner of Dove Street was recently converted to apartments, so there would be a cumulative load from this project if approved in terms of parking spaces. Thank you.
All right. I would like to move to, if there's no other comments, is there, Zach?
Not at this time. I think someone from Dan's team has raised their hand, though, just for a response.
Well, we're going to hear from your report first. The response can come after that.
Okay.
Okay.
So the staff report?
Yep, bear with me just one second as I switch back over to the PowerPoint. Thank you. Okay. So this is just a screenshot from the County Planning Board's recommendation to disapprove. During the meeting, they had stated 4 items with an additional reference to aerial obstructions, which is a reference from Appendix D as well as a general concern from parking. When we received the recommendation from the County Planning Board, though, these were the only 2 items that were addressed in the recommendation. And as Dan mentioned, Appendix D, which relates to fire apparatus access roads, is a provision of code that is not mandatory unless it's specifically referenced in the adopting ordinance when a community adopts the International Building Code as part of their general code. So as Dan mentioned, these references are not applicable since this is not part of the city's code at this time. This was a discussion that the city and our departments have had for approximately a year because, again, when this was first brought up by the fire department, I think all of us collectively were under the assumption that the city had adopted this portion of the code. Based on further review from staff members from the building department, they alerted us that this portion of the code had not been adopted. And given that the city is fairly developed at this point, any potential for infill development is going to be greatly stifled through the adoption of this Appendix D. The fire department and the building department is currently looking to create a standard operating procedure to review the construction of new buildings along new roads following Appendix D. But again, given that the city is, for the most part, already developed, and there are, streets that date back to the 1600s and structures, that go all the way from the 1700s forward, there are just naturally going to be instances where, infill construction is not going to be able to align with this Appendix D. Again, we were encouraging the applicant to potentially move the utilities across the street in order to meet the intent of Appendix D, specifically related to aerial obstructions. Upon further review, this was looked upon as a worse option by our building department and our fire department as well, because this would have created obstructions in front of the smaller homes across the street that would not have as much fire protection and infrastructure within their buildings. So again, by not moving those utilities across the street, that is preventing, a potentially worse outcome if there was a potential fire emergency along Spring Street.
And the building that is being proposed is going to be sprinkled, right? So that the building that's proposed.
Yes, it's a sprinkler building.
Fire protection already. Above and beyond having to move the utilities. Okay.
So I'm going to go through the development plan review standards. And again, feel free to stop me if you have any questions as we go through. The first is whether the project would create any significant adverse impacts on the surrounding neighborhood, or whether they would be limited to a short period of time. The proposed use as a multifamily structure with 19 dwelling units is not going to create any significant adverse impacts on the surrounding neighborhood because it's a relatively small multifamily development. And the proposed construction timeline of 1 year is going to limit any adverse impacts related to the construction of the proposed building. The second is whether the project would create any risk to the public health or safety. This is a proposed, low intensity use. And again, the construction schedule of 1 year is going to limit the risks to the public health or safety. The third is whether it's consistent with any relevant prior approvals or conditions, and there are no prior approvals or conditions for the site. The fourth is whether it's consistent with the comprehensive plan. This project aligns with land use strategy 1, since it's located in an area that's classified as a mixed use corridor, which the comprehensive plan identifies as a highly walkable area that support transit, bicycles, and pedestrians, as well as higher density mixed use development. It is also consistent with land use 2 strategy, which is land use transportation connection, by citing multi-family housing along a number of transit lines, specifically the current red Bus Plus line, or 905, and the proposed purple Bus Plus line. And it's also consistent with strategy housing and development C-3, which is provide and maintain intergenerational / life cycle housing options that meets the needs of all age groups. It's providing and marketing the proposed project for senior citizens and people with disabilities within a neighborhood that has a range of housing options for people throughout the lifespan. And again, it's serviced by a very walkable neighborhood and transit services. And it's also located near the Albany County Social Services Office, which would potentially provide a convenient location for prospective residents. Number 5, the project is consistent with any provisions of the USDO and the city code. And once the site has been subdivided, it will comply with the parking regulations that have been brought up. And 6, the project does comply with all requirements and conditions. And again, there are no prior development permits or approvals that the applicant has to comply with.
Any questions regarding staff comments? Okay, hearing none.
I'm sorry, Al, this is Chris.
Yes.
Zach, and as you outlined, and you talked about the impact, you said the project would have a small impact. I'm just curious as to how staff made that determination, what rubric we're using.
Yeah, so it's located in a mixed-use community urban location. As some of the speakers have mentioned, it is kind of a transitional zone where you see on the north side of Spring Street, higher density buildings and smaller buildings located on the southern side of Spring Street as well. And that just kind of relates to the natural design of Washington Avenue, you know, where larger homes were initially constructed and then kind of smaller supporting accessory structures and homes were built on the south side of Spring Street. So that kind of aligns with the development pattern that naturally occurred there. This is a multifamily structure with, you know, relatively small number of units. So again, the proposed use as just a multifamily building with 19 dwelling units is a relatively small impact. Again, while the applicant is not required to provide parking for the site, they are trying to market the units for populations that do not necessarily need or frequently use personal vehicles for the site. And there are options through pedestrian networks, cycling networks, and transit networks to be able to support those people through alternative modes of transportation. And again, you know, we've heard issues from residents related to parking and the impact for current residents. And as we, you know, receive more applications, we are looking to promote more walkable, bikeable, transit-friendly development as we move forward, because to reduce the number of cars, you know, within the city, you have to look for development that is more inclined or more geared towards people who don't own cars. So this is kind of meeting that intent of trying to reduce the number of overall people that are, you know, coming into the neighborhood with new cars, while still recognizing that they need networks and support to be able to get to where they need to go. But again, you know, this is located within close proximity to a number of major employers. So if there are people who are still working that may have a disability or a senior citizen, they still have options to get to work and are not in an isolated location. Again, for the impact on sorry, Chris, this is a very long answer. But again, you know, there's a relatively short time frame for construction as well. You know, residents on Spring Street have seen a lot of construction recently through improvement projects that have been going on with the city. But again, a year time frame is a relatively you know, short construction period for a multifamily building as well. So that's also going to be reducing the overall impact of the proposed project. And sorry, I cut you off, Chris. So feel free to let me know if that answered your question or if you have additional questions from that.
Thank you, Zach.
Further questions by the board?
Yeah, Zach, can you go back to the Albany County determination and what that was in reference to? That was a state Appendix D?
This is,
It's Appendix D of the New York State Building Code, yes.
So does the city code supersede state code?
Let me interpret a little bit because I was involved in this discussion for quite a while. The building code put some things in appendixes which municipalities had the right to accept or not accept, to give them the capability of tailoring their local needs closer to what they saw as opposed to a uniform New York State building code. And that's why the two fire code issues still remain. But I hold out that you have streets that aren't even 26 feet wide with buildings on them right now. And there are plenty of places in the city of Albany where if you built an infill building, there's absolutely no way to build it and conform with Appendix D. So I think the right to accept or not accept Appendix D was made for this sort of situation. And quite honestly, I don't think the city ought to accept it because it's going to render a whole bunch of buildings not buildable unless they want to go to the New York State Department of State and ask for a variance.
I think the bottom line here is not arguing over whether we should or shouldn't look at Appendix D and its relationship to who's got jurisdiction. I think the bottom line here is the reality that the building that's being built is going to be sprinkled, and that it would be a worse situation if the utilities were moved across the street, which would then block the possibility of fire apparatus getting to the older buildings that aren't sprinkled. So this is a real plus.
And Roman, just to add on to Al and Dan's comments, the state uses the International Building and Fire Code and then provides a supplement. So there are just like multiple names speaking to, very similar products as well. So, but again, as Dan mentioned, municipalities have the option to opt in and include Appendix D as part of their building fire code when they do decide to adopt the building code and fire code.
Okay, that's what I was really just trying to confirm, that's all. Thank you.
Further questions by the board? Okay, Dan Hirschberg, you have 5 minutes to make any comments based on what you've heard from testimony or from the board.
Yes, I think I made my comments about the fire code issue, and I think you're correct. There's no way to do it that would satisfy Appendix D and make this project buildable. Meanwhile, I think either Rhea or Florida might want to speak. They all logged in as me because I sent them my information. If one of them can raise their hand and speak, I think one of them would like to participate in my rebuttal.
Okay. Zach?
Ray, you should have the ability to unmute, or Florida.
Yes,
I think you're all
everyone.
panelists.
Yes, hi, I'm Rhea Statatos. I'm Florida's partner, and hopefully she'll speak right after me. We were driving all day. To address the community, I've been in the community. I actually moved to the area, and I've been living there for over a year. I am in the community. I know the needs, and for everybody, and for the lady who lives on 8 Spring Street, I'm addressing the community and the building that is next to me. I'm picking up cigarette butts every day. I'm picking up garbage that I videotaped from the building next door to me. They don't like to come down and put it in the garbage. They prefer to throw it out the window, okay? So what I'm thinking is having a building of this size is not large at scale, and it would be a plus to the community because in the back, Spring Street has few, it has a carriage house, I think, across the street. Further down, there's a couple of buildings, and then it's garages. I don't like to walk at night. I don't find it safe. I don't take my son at night. We get out the front entrance, which is the Washington Avenue entrance. So having a building for 55 plus would be a plus to the community. It's better than what it is right now. I have to be a policeman there, closing the garage gate because I have people coming in and urinating. So I don't see anybody addressing these community issues other than coming to this meeting to address the building issue. So as far as I'm concerned, I think it would be a plus to the community. I think blocking even the building next door, because you can't block their windows, but blocking the ability for them to throw their garbage over helps the neighborhood because I'm fighting mice and I'm fighting rats and I'm fighting all of this every single day. So we're not here to build units. And of course, I'm going to rent them at whatever rents are to market. But I am gearing, me and Florida are gearing for the 55 plus community that has been displaced at this time due to high prices. But they will be market rents, not luxury rents. Because it's a transient community. You have the bus right there. You have bicycles that could go around. You know, cars are not needed as much on that location than other locations. And everybody knows where I am. and everybody in the community is free to knock on my door, make an appointment, and address any issues they have. It's better to speak face to face rather than behind someone's back. That's the way I was taught, but I invite the community with any questions. That's all I had to say. Thank you, everyone.
There's no cross discussion, so you made your point. Thank you. Zach, anybody else want to speak from the applicants?
Florida, if you wanted to say anything else, there's 2 minutes left remaining.
I think we made all the points we wanted, Zach. I don't think we have to use our full 5 minutes in the interest of trying to move the meeting along.
Okay.
All right, the recommendation of the planning staff is to approve the project as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Roman Kuchera. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Martin Hall. Further discussion?
Al, can I just jump in? There's just also a recommended actor for the, a recommended action for the State Environmental Quality Review Act. Just recommending a negative declaration. So I would just recommend that the board maybe take that action prior to voting on the development plan review. And my apologies if that was not listed in the memo.
Oh yeah, I didn't see that on here. Okay. So we will instead keep that on in abeyance, and I would request that we have a negative declaration on the State Environmental Quality Review Act. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Al.
Moved by Chris Ellis. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Roman Kuchera. Further discussion on this SEQR? Hearing none. All those in favor of negative declaration, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, we'll move then to the next item on the agenda, which is approve a major development plan. The recommendation is to approve it. You heard the testimony and the discussion. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
And seconded.
Chair and seconded by Martin Hull, as we had before. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, 5 ayes, that's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We move on to the next item on the agenda, which looks to me like it's all blacked out. So I'm assuming that might be the project at the corner of Livingston Avenue and Broadway. Is that correct, Zach?
Yes, sorry about that.
Okay.
Let me just progress to.
Yeah, this project then is the a project that involves the Capitol Repertory Theater on whose board I sit. That's why my document is blacked out. So I will leave and you'll call me when you're done discussing this.
Okay, thank you, Al.
Martin, you can take this one as the vice president.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, let's move forward. And who's going to be presenting on this one?
That's me, Daniel Hirschberg from the firm of Hirschberg and Hirschberg. This project's been in front of you for quite a while too. And actually, I am guilty of messing up the number of units. It's actually 67 dwelling units. I first went to 70 and then to 66. It's 67 dwelling units, just for clarity. That's the number currently shown on the site plan and the plans created by Dan Sanders. This plan took a while to get through, primarily due to the issue with regard to the building demolition, getting SHPO's approval, and for the stormwater issue. Like a lot of issues in the city, it's difficult to handle stormwater when you're tributary to a large combined sewer very close to its outfall. Yet we worked out a situation where the Department of Water and Water Service was able to agree with that proposal. Next, you want to go to the first slide there. This is existing condition survey. The project's vacant with the exception of the one building at 67 Livingston, which is an older building. It had been significantly changed over the years, but SHPO was concerned. They actually thought we might be able to move it. We had it inspected by a structural engineer who said the building would not withstand moving it, being its structural condition. So SHPO said essentially they wanted us to document some stuff inside, which we're doing, and they will have no objection to the demolition after we document some building materials. Next. This is a demolition plan. The building gets demolished, some asphalt gets demolished, and it basically ends up with a vacant site. You see there's a significant grade. Those contours show the grade coming up along Livingston Avenue from Broadway, heading north, or heading west, and there's a significant grade across the site. It's about 14 feet from end to end of the site. Next. This is the building, and it shows essentially the dark area on the left does not have a lower level on it because of the grade. It would have been below grade and we wouldn't have to have any windows on it. So that's an unexcavated portion on the first floor. So the ground floor includes the other area, which includes commercial uses and 3 units. The statistics are not wonderful. We are able to have a small amount of green area, 13.1% of the site, but I think we meet the code. Next. We did a transportation data situation, transportation demand. We were able to figure out using the IT manual, which has a program which breaks people up into those that are potentially using cars, those that are potential pedestrians, and so those that intend to bike. And there was a significant use of bikes and pedestrian predicted due to its location in an urban area accessible to CTTA buses. And the applicant also agrees and he's already has signed the Universal Access Program Agreement with CTTA to enter into agreement with them to provide universal access, which means everybody in the building, every resident in the building will get the potential of having a card that'll allow them to use CDTA any time of the day. The trips are counted during the year. There's a first year fee of $5,000, I think, and after that it gets adjusted as the project goes forward. Next. The parking counts. We were concerned about not having any parking on site. So we took a look at the parking counts in the vicinity of 67 Livingston Avenue. And there were a total of 211 spaces. We took every place within 500 feet of the front entrance of this building. That include areas along Broadway, areas on Livingston Avenue, some on North Pearl Street, and those totaled up, and we figured out there are 311 spots there. We did a count of it by taking, we counted it all the hours of the day. We went from 6:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. We counted the vacant spots, and it turned out that there was as many as 131 to 120. I think that's 120 parking spots available in the area, more than enough to meet the parking demand from our units. Again, this is being marketed for a number of different purposes. One being people that'll be performing at Capitol Rep, which is right around the corner from the site, definitely within walking distance. And so those units would have no need to travel the area with a car. And there are a lot of people that might rent here. We're concentrating on ones and studio units to have access to downtown. A number of people working in downtown are moving downtown so that they can walk or bike to work. And we definitely have good bus access. The new Bus Plus line that goes up to Troy and back has a spot called Livingston Station, which stops right in front of this building. Next. This is a photo from Livingston Avenue that shows that building, and a photo from Broadway, which shows the vacant site and the one building on the site. And that's the photos of the building to be demolished. This is the building. Oh, you can go back to the elevation view. This is the elevation view looking in from Broadway. And on the left-hand side is Livingston Avenue. The commercial space has the fenestration to indicate that it's for commercial uses. We don't have any tenants yet, but there's probably a number of people that would like to be here to provide services, not only to the residents here, but right across the street is 760 Broadway, which is opening up with a lot of new residents there, and 7485 Broadway, which is planning to go forward also with their project, which had been previously approved. Next. This is the elevation view looking from Livingston Avenue, and you see at the bottom grade, the windows of the commercial area exposed, but as it goes up the street, we lose that first level, ground floor level, and when we pick up at the second level. And all those windows are for residential units, obviously. And I think I might have one more slide, or maybe not. Oh no, I don't have any more. We think that this makes good use of the site. It goes along with the need to provide housing accessible to pedestrians, bicycles, and mass transit, and this certainly does that. And it meets the need in the immediate area that with Capitol Rep start bringing in groups of people, they will own or rent a certain number of the units in this building. The final number of units is still being reviewed, but it'll be 10 plus units within the building. And I'll try to answer any questions which the board may have. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And I really appreciate your putting that thought and effort into the parking requirements and the parking availability. That helps a lot. Let's see, any questions from the board? Okay, let's see, Zach, we were doing your comments next, right?
Yeah, and I think before I go into those, Dan, can you just walk through the terms of the Universal Access Agreement? I think just for anyone on the board who's not familiar with it, or anyone listening, in terms of how many rides people who sign up for the program will get, and whether that's inclusive of just bus service, or if that's also providing access to the CDPHP bike share as well.
Yeah, the final agreement, I think, calls for unlimited use by the residents here, which all have to sign up to become participants. And then after the first year, it'll be adjusted based upon demand, based upon the number of rides taking. CDT estimated it going up. We don't think it'll necessarily go up, but if it does, it will, and the applicant will continue to pay the annual fee to CDTA. Regarding the bikes, we had talked to CDTA about actually locating one of their bike racks here, since it'd be convenient here, and they might be willing to do that. And the charges for bike use can be included in the Universal Access Agreement. I don't know whether it is now. I really can't speak to that. But it can be. It wouldn't be a a big push for the applicant to agree to that, since the cost of the bus is very nominal. CDTA and CDPHP sponsor it, and they'd be willing to participate in that too. As a matter of fact, we hope that CDTA and CDPHP will decide to locate one of their racks in proximity to this building.
Great, thanks for the clarification. So I will transition into the discussion of both of the applications. Apologies to board members. I think I had made the mistake of listing this as review criteria 2 and 8 when it should just be 1 and 8 for the demolition review, but I'll proceed through that right now. This project is up for 2 separate applications, the first being for demolition review. There are 13 review criteria that the planning board can use in order to determine whether a demolition should be approved. Through the review of this application, it seemed like review criteria number 1 and number 8 applied the most in this instance, so I'll go through those quickly. The first being whether the demolition and or proposed redevelopment plan is consistent with the comprehensive plan, neighborhood or district plans, and or city or regional planning objectives. And as mentioned before, this plan was included as one of the awarded DRI or Downtown Revitalization Initiative projects. And this is creating a node for local artists who will be working at the Capitol Repertory Theater, which is located just on the western portion of that block. And based on the confines of the site, the proposed demolition of the deteriorated structure enables the construction of this new building that can provide more affordable units for the project and overall, occupy a larger portion of the streetscape as well, leading to a greater positive visual impact as well. And then review criteria number 8, the details of the development plan and proposed use and the time frame which the applicant intends to commence the proposed redevelopment of the site. This project will provide 57 affordable housing units, rotating space for artists who are working at the Cap Rep Theater, and commercial retail space on the ground floor. Again, this has a relatively short construction time frame of a year, and the proposed demolition will enable the construction of the new building and support other approved DRI projects, including the new Cap Rep Theater and other art-related projects that have been awarded to support the completion of those projects and future complementary development as well. Any questions on the demolition before I transition into the development plan review?
Nope.
Okay. I'll go through the 6 development plan review criteria quickly again, since we just went through them for the previous project. Any potential impacts on the neighborhood. The proposed use of the building as a multifamily structure is not going to have any significant adverse impacts on the surrounding neighborhood, since there are also residential uses nearby. Through the review of the sewer extension and continual review of the maintenance and protection of traffic plan with the Division of Traffic Engineering, and a relatively short construction time frame, the project is not going to create significant adverse impacts on the surrounding neighborhood. And just as a reminder for board members and members of the public, the applicant is submitting a sewer extension because there's an anticipated, or at least an anticipated 2,500 gallons per day of sewage that'll be produced as a result of this project, which requires the review of not only the Water Department, but the Albany County Department of Health and New York State DEC, which was one of the reasons why the review of this project took a long time, especially since this is located near a sewer main. So again, through the review of this project, the applicant's been able to show that no negative impacts will arise from that sewer extension. The next one is any risk to the public health or safety. Again, this has been reviewed by city departments, county and state agencies, and they have found that this project will not result in any risk to the public health or safety through the proposed design and mitigation measures. And apologies for not mentioning this before, but this was also referred to the Albany County Planning Board for their May 20th meeting and was deferred to local consideration. The third is whether it's consistent with any relevant prior approvals or conditions, which there are not any, that it needs to be consistent with or comply with. Whether the project is consistent with the comprehensive plan, it aligns with land use number 1 strategy, since it's located in an area that's classified as a mixed use corridor, which similar to the last project is identified as a highly walkable area that supports transit, bicycles, and pedestrians, as well as higher density mixed use development, which this project is. And it's also consistent with land use strategy number 2, by proposing to construct multifamily housing along a bus plus line, which is the blue line that runs from Albany to Troy and on into Cohoes and Waterford. The applicant has also submitted a transportation demand management plan, which includes provisions for residents and employees to be included as part of the Universal Access Program, which will especially assist in the goal of maximizing transportation efficiency and reducing automobile dependency. Number 5, there are conditions of approval that are listed towards the end, and through satisfying those conditions, the project will comply with all provisions of the USDO and the City Code. And number 6, again, the project does not need to comply with any requirements and conditions of previous development permits or approvals, since there are not any. So I'm going to go through the conditions for both the demolition review and the development plan review. There is a change for the condition related to the transportation demand management plan, which I will get to for the development plan review criteria. These two conditions are relating to the mitigation requirements that were submitted by the State Historic Preservation Office, and these were recommended in their mitigation measures, with the first being that the applicant must complete all mitigation requirements within 6 months of the execution of the letter of resolution with the New York State Historic Preservation Office. And then the second condition is prior to the approval of any building permits for demolition activities, the applicant must submit completed documentation reports, apologies for the typo there, to the New York State Historic Preservation Office. And these were just 2 items that were mentioned in the mitigation measures, and just transferring those over into the demolition review approval.
What is unique about the building? Is it particularly?
Primarily its age. It's quite an old building, early 1800s. So it was the age of the building that qualified it for different review by SHPO.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and thanks for bringing that up, Martin. It's just a reminder to the board. This site is located in a national historic district, but not in a locally designated district. So we do have some national districts that are not also locally designated. So if it's just a nationally designated district, it doesn't need to go to the Historic Resources Commission as a result. But since the applicant is seeking state funding and proposing to do work within a national historic district, that is what triggers the review by the State Historic Preservation Office. And that's why the applicant is required to complete these mitigation requirements.
Okay.
And just to take a quick pause, Dan, there was a question from someone in the audience asking if there was any prospective uses for the commercial space at this point.
No, David Sheriff, the representative for Fairbanks, has no potential tenants now, and whether or not there will be shortly, we're not sure. It might be an ideal place for a coffee place for people that are walking, but we're not sure. It's with a whole bunch of retail uses, it's very hard to sign tenants up now, since a lot of them are just recovering from the last 15 months of not having any business. So I'm not sure.
Okay, should we
Great, thank you.
Martin, can,
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Mark.
Just so you know, just a second. You want to ask a question, Roman, on the conditions? I thought we'd go through the other conditions on the development proposal, then get your questions, and then get the questions from the audience.
Okay, yeah, because I just want to hone in a little bit on, make sure I understood the mitigation requirements for the state preservation. That's all.
Sure. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, and if you bear with me, I was just modifying the condition on the slide, just to ensure clarity, but I can also pull up the mitigation measures that were submitted by SHPO, just so that the board and members of the public can view those. So bear with me just 1 second while I pull that up. Okay, so this is a PDF. This is a draft that I believe SHPO uses frequently in instances where this happens. So, as part of in instances where it's maybe not possible to restore or preserve a building, SHPO requires that the applicant proposing to demolish the building provide some interpretive panels or basically just, informational panels on the space, documenting that it's part of the historic district and the history of the site, and also provide, photographs before the demolition, just so that it can be preserved for the record of the district. And if there are any instances where there's modifications or demolition being proposed in other portions of the district, that it can be used as a reference. Also providing a historical narrative to the State Historic Preservation Office. So it's not a huge lift, but it is important just to ensure that, the state has that record, as well as just for the benefit of the community as well, because the State Historic Preservation Office uploads this to their site called CRIS, which is the Cultural Resources Inventory System, which is kind of their portal for referring projects that are located within national districts. And it just is a good source of information to figure out, the history of the district, and that's often where you find the inventory forms that were originally created when a district was.
Oh, we just lost you, Zach. You stopped. We can't hear you. At least I can't.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. So I'm just going to switch back to the PowerPoint presentation. And so I've just uploaded that or updated that condition just to remove the additional reference to submission for the documentation reports. Moving on to the development plan review, we received comments from the Division of Engineering and the Department of General Services that a licensing agreement and easement needed to be established for the proposed retaining wall on Livingston Avenue. And the condition is just requiring that that is created prior to the approval of building permits. The second, based on comments from the Division of Traffic Engineering, just requiring at the beginning of construction activities at the site, the applicant must contact the Division of Traffic Engineering for review and concurrence in the field once the work zone safety plan is implemented. The third is that prior to receiving a certificate of occupancy, the applicant must receive approval from the chief planning official for a transportation demand management plan for the site. So the applicant is utilizing the option within the city code to not provide on-site parking through the submission of a transportation demand management plan. This has been reviewed by our chief planning official, which is our director, Brad Glass. Based on conversations with him, he is looking to approve that with conditions of just providing the supplemental information for the execution of the contract for the Universal Access Program with CDTA, and just ensuring that we get the additional information on what that contract provides for residents and employees who will be at the site. So again, kind of speaking to those questions of how many times a resident can utilize the bus within a given week or month, as well as if they have access to CDPHP bikes as a part of that program. And then the last three conditions for approval. This comes from the conditioned approval that was provided by the Water Department that states the City of Albany's Department of Water and Water Supplies final acceptance is contingent upon review and approval of documents by the Albany County Department of Health, Albany County Water Pollution District, and New York State DEC. Construction may not begin until acceptance from these agencies is received. This has been a long review process, and I believe it is in the final stages of being approved. That being said, there have been multiple staff shortages for the county's Department of Health and New York State DEC, which we've seen in other projects create delays that are longer than normal. The fifth is that prior to receiving a certificate of occupancy, the applicant must submit a site plan and elevations that confirm the site is screening all roof-mounted and ground-mounted mechanical equipment to the standards of Section 375-4069 B and C of the USCO. And so I will just quickly go back to the elevations that Dan had included in the PowerPoint. Bear with me just one second. So currently these elevations are showing ground-mounted mechanical equipment shown on the northern portion of the building right here. Currently there are proposed bollards, but they don't adequately screen the mechanical equipment. And there's a similar instance with the building to the south of this building as well that also has mechanical equipment that's visible from the public right-of-way. So just looking to ensure that the applicant is adequately screening this to not create any negative visual impacts through the approval of this project.
Is that a transformer there, or is that a dumpster? Okay, so it's fixed, it'll be easy to screen. Okay.
And then the last condition is just that the applicant must implement an affordable housing compliance plan. This is just a kind of standard condition that we, when Amy Levine was staffing our board, just recommended that this was a condition for all projects that are 50 units or more, that's a condition of approval as part of the project. But the applicant goes well and beyond to meet the requirements of the Affordable Housing Compliance Plan.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much. Any questions from the board on the conditions? Okay, thank you. And now we'll go on to questions from attendees. Zach, I think we do have some people signed up, correct?
Yep, bear with me. I'm just again gonna switch over to the timer. And I know, okay, bear with me just one second. All right, Ms. Lundgren, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay, feel free to start whenever you're ready.
Okay. I am first going to speak on behalf of Historic Albany Foundation, of which I am a board member. They are concerned with the scale of what is being proposed. There are a lot of large buildings that have recently been built here, including a huge apartment next door or across the street. And can the market really support that level of density? We're building too high. 67 Livingston is engulfing their surrounding properties. A number of these properties have been recently renovated and, as noted, are in nationally historic district, including the Capitol Rep. Those buildings are 2 to 3 stories high, and slide 81 showed the difference of the height of the proposed building versus what is there now. Historic Albany is concerned with the cumulative effects of these large buildings, and would like to ask for a review of large-scale projects that have been done in the past few years to gauge whether or not these are successful and if this model is working. Historic Albany does more than protect historic landmarks. We are a nonprofit that focuses on historic architecture and the nature of the community and the context of the community. And that is why we are opposed to this particular project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Let's see now, anyone else? Zach?
It looks like Ankit, so you raised your hand. Did you want to speak on this application? I know you had some questions in the chat about potential commercial use and wanting to see a convenience store there, but did you want to provide public comment?
Oh, hi, this is Ankit Sood. Thanks for speaking with me. We just had a question. We own the gas station right across, and we were concerned what kind of use that commercial space would provide. Like, that's about it. Because
okay.
So am I still on mute?
Okay, sorry about that. Thanks for your patience, everyone. So Mr. Sood will relay that question to the applicant, and then they can provide a response to that question. We just don't allow cross discussion between applicants and members of the public. And it looks like we've had another person signing up to speak. Jeff, were you wanting to speak on this application?
I do, yes.
Okay, feel free to start whenever you're ready.
Jeff Buell, Redburn Development Partners. I think this is my first time ever speaking in front of a public board while waiting to speak on another project, but I was actually fascinated by the discussion surrounding the parking, and would like to fully support the route that this project is taking. We have been spending a considerable amount of time in the warehouse district over the past couple of months, and I have been relaying to a number of people that the need to improve walkability is going to be driven by more people actually walking, oddly. And so having cars on the street, I think, would be a huge benefit. The need for this type of housing does exist in the city of Albany. I'll speak later to that on our project, but I can tell you just this past weekend, we added another 37 apartments into downtown Albany, and all 37 were moved in on opening day. Fully supportive of this project, and hope it moves forward.
Thank you, very interesting.
And I think quickly, Ms. Lundgren, just to clarify, she was looking to speak both on a professional capacity as a board member for Historic Albany Foundation, but also wanted to provide public comment on a personal level. So I'm just going to give her a minute to speak, since I let her know that she had a total of 3 minutes in both capacities. So I will do that really quickly. Ms. Lundgren, feel free to start whenever you are ready.
All right, I'll make this quick. Yes, Julie Lundgren, 51 Winthrop Avenue, speaking on my personal behalf. Yes, I am concerned that this really does change this block and the neighborhood. The houses that are remaining have been recently restored. They're 1800s and 1900s. buildings, including Capitol Rep, which is 1800s, and they're all 2 to 3 stories and just getting, taken over by this height. 6 parking spaces. Yeah, I support walking, but I'm concerned that people will still have cars. I work on this in this area, and having this area pre-COVID was completely parked up by the businesses in the area. I noticed the parking stats that were presented tonight were from 9/2020. That was in COVID when almost all those businesses.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you,
Lundgren.
Ms.
That's your time.
Let's see now. Is that everyone?
Yes.
Okay, great. Dan, did you want to make any response to any of the comments?
Just a short comment. As I said before, the applicant has no idea who would rent the retail space. Hopefully we can find somebody to rent it. Again, somebody has to have a business plan that lends itself to people that don't have to park, people that walk, ride, or are taking buses from the bus stop that's right in front of the building. The lack of on-site parking is developed here because that's the market that we're running into now. We're trying to discourage people from bringing their own cars. Providing universal access is a great method of doing it.
Yep.
People get used to using the bus, and with the bus plus stopping right in front of the site, it's a great solution. And I don't have any other comments.
Okay, thank you. So let's see, do we move on now, Zach, then to the actions, correct? Okay.
Yep.
So
Unless there's any other questions about the recommended conditions or the review of the application.
Right, from the board.
Yeah, Zach, just one question. A lot of conditions, and we kind of been going away from conditions. Is this just simply because of the financing and stuff that's involved in the timing?
Yeah, this is a DRI project, but it's also just, there are a lot of funders as part of the DRI program. And this is also just a very involved project in terms of just the site constraints for construction, the proposed sewer extension just requiring, city, county, and state review as well. There's the proposed demolition, which required review from State Historic Preservation Office, which again, added additional conditions as well. So this is a project that's been, under review through our office since 2018. So it's, been a very long project as a result of, all the entities involved as a result of that, and through that, that's just what is created, this number of conditions as a result. We do try to look at shifting away from those, but there are some instances where, again, when there are, other non-city entities that are involved in the review, there's only, so many factors or elements of a project we can confirm have been completely reviewed. So just trying to provide those assurances going forward if this project is approved, to make sure that they are complying with all relevant requirements that have been proposed by outside agencies and entities.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, very good. In that case, we'll move on to the SECRA negative declaration. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Roman. Let's see now. Am I allowed to second? Yes, right?
I'll second. I'll second.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Glenisa. Seconded by Glenisa Guillard. All in favor, say aye.
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 Passes unanimously. And on we move to the first recommended action, which is the development review application, or I'm sorry, the demolition application to be approved with conditions. Do I need to read these into the record, Zach, or is your previous reading adequate?
I'm happy to read them if you would like to read them. I can.
Oh, okay.
It's probably best to read them in.
Read them. Okay, I will do that.
Okay.
Yep. So we're going to act on approving the demolition permit for the project with the following two conditions. The applicant must complete all mitigation requirements within 6 months of the execution of the letter of resolution with the New York State Historic Preservation Office. And condition number 2, prior to approval of any building permits for demolition activities, the applicant must submit completed documentation reports must be submitted to New York State Preservation Office. And with that, can I get a motion for that?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Moved by Roman Kuchera and seconded by Chris Ellis. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Negative, say nay. Passes unanimously. And we move on to our third action, the development approval with 6 conditions. First one, prior to the approval of building permits, the applicant must develop and receive approval for a licensing agreement and easement for the proposed retaining wall on Livingston Avenue with the city's Department of General Services. Condition 2, at the beginning of construction activities at the site, the applicant must contact the Division of Traffic Engineering for review and concurrence in the field once the work safety zone plan is implemented. Condition 3, prior to receiving a certificate of occupancy, the applicant must meet all conditions of the Transportation Demand Management Plan approved with conditions by the Chief Planning Official on May 25th, 2021. Condition 4, the City of Albany Department of Water and Water Supplies final acceptance is contingent upon review and approval of documents by Albany County Department of Health, Albany County Water Pollution District, and the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. Construction may not begin until acceptance from ECDOH, ECWPCD, and NYSDEC is received. Condition 5, prior to receiving your certificate of occupancy, the applicant must submit a site plan and elevations that confirm the site is screening all roof-mounted and ground mechanical equipment to the standards of 375-4069 and C of the USDO. And finally, condition 6, the applicant must implement an affordable housing compliance plan. Do I have a motion?
And Martin, just real quickly, I had changed the language for condition number 3.
Right. Okay.
So if the board is amenable, just
as amended,
just modifying.
I'm amenable. So
I'm fine with it.
Okay, good. Thank you. In that case, we'll go ahead with a motion.
So moved.
Okay, and second.
Second.
Thank you both. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Yep, you're welcome. Thank you. And thanks for being for being innovative on this one. There's some interesting things, interesting aspects to the project that are great ideas. And I guess with that, we'll get Al back in the room.
So I will unmute Al, and if that doesn't work, I will just try calling Al just to see if that will work instead. Okay. So bear with me just one sec.
Sure.
Okay, Al should be joining in just a sec. And I'm also just going to be modifying. Oh, there we go.
Okay. Very good. Welcome back, Al.
Well, one good thing about having to recuse myself for that relatively long, whatever you were talking about, as I did have an opportunity to have a snack.
Excellent.
Okay, we are now on to the next project, which is 191 North Pearl Street. The proposal here is to have a concept review of a major development plan for the construction of about a 25,900 square foot, 4-story multifamily building with 18 dwelling units. The applicant is 191 North Pearl Street LLC, and the agent is Ron Stein, who is representing the development. This is a concept review, so we're taking no action on this tonight.
Sorry, bear with me just as we're transitioning people over.
We did see this, by the way. We did see
sorry,
this
go ahead,
at
Al.
the workshop 2 weeks ago.
So Sarah and Ron, you have the ability to speak. I did not get a PowerPoint presentation, but if I just put in the slides from the workshop presentation, so if there's anything that you would like to add to that, feel free to let me know and I can progress accordingly through the slides.
Did you also, Michael Roman as well, Zach?
I'm with Sarah, Ron.
Oh, okay, great. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
So I'll transition to the site plan and then feel free to jump in and start the presentation.
Okay, thanks, Zach. So my name's Sarah. I'm here on talking behalf of Ron for this North Pearl Street project. It's a 18-unit, 4-story building. We're providing parking beneath roughly 13 spots. It's along Pearl and Wilson on the corner of it. So the plan you see in front of you now is the parking, 13 spots, elevator, and an entrance off of North Pearl. The parking entrance is off of Wilson. If you go to the next slide. This is a street rendering on North Pearl. Here we're bringing in some of the traditional look of the streetscape with the brick and the cornice detailing. This is our main entrance to the lobby for the apartment units. Here you can see some balconies, bringing some outdoor space in for the units. We've got some stone on part of the lower corners to bring some of that masonry in that you see along some of the other residential units around on both North Pearl and Wilson as well. If you go to the next slide. This is a view off of Wilson. This is our entrance to the parking garage, as you can see in the lower right-hand side there. We're continuing the brick and the cornice work around on all sides, as well as bringing in some of these balconies and some of the stonework as well. If you go to the next slide. That's just a close-up of the garage plan again, providing 13 units. Yeah, if you go to the next one. Here is our typical unit layout per floor. It's 6 units per floor, a mix of 1 and 2 bedrooms. And then you can see in some of the corners, the balconies as well. You have the next one? So this is a second floor unit, very similar to the first. Again, it's 1 and 2 bedroom mix, 6 units per floor. You go to the next one if you have one. Third floor, again, it's the same as the second floor with the 1 and 2 bedroom mix, and some balconies kind of wrapping on all 4 sides. And the next one. Oh. So yeah, so this is some information about the project. As I said, it's 18 units, 9 1 bedrooms and 9 2 bedroom mix, evenly throughout. 4 stories. As you saw in the renderings, we were bringing in some of this traditional streetscape. We were very conscious of it, and got some feedback from the Historic Resources Commission as well on bringing in some of that more traditional look that you see along down North Pearl. I don't know if you have anything else to add, Ron?
Yeah, just that, this was a project, Alex, you've said before, you've seen it was approved back in 2016-17. It came before the board as a different project, but I ended up purchasing it as the previous project and the LLC as well. So all the plans and everything that would go with it. The idea is, we were down there today, is really we worked with the Historic Resource Commission to change the look and feel of the front, especially the faux storefront, into this more streetscape and traditional fit into the neighborhood. It's going before the board review committee on the 2nd, and then to the full committee in 2 weeks from that for HRC. And, I feel that, with the parking and the new layouts, I think and the new look and feel, I think it's a nice project and as we've heard previously from both the previous project and from our folks at Redburn, that area is building up. This is another nice project that gives alternatives and a nice mix of apartments as well, and look and feel, with the in-garage parking, similar to what we've worked with on our projects before. That seems to be doing very well, and people like this kind of unit.
Okay, further questions? Any questions from the board? I meant to say, sorry about that. Okay. Any comments from the public?
Bear with me just 1 sec while I pull up the list just to see if anyone's there. No speakers at the moment.
Okay. All righty. This is a concept review, so we will see this again at our next meeting in June.
Great. We're looking forward to it, and looking forward to getting started on the site, which is a little bit complicated, but as all what I tell everybody is all these projects, everyone's complicated on the sites. All the other non-complicated ones are built on.
All right, thank you very much. We got to move on because it's getting very late, and I'm actually running out of power here. It's been so long, a meeting. The next item on the agenda is 42 and 47 Besh Avenue. The applicant again is Ron Stein, and this is a major development plan review for the construction of a 4-story, approximately 60,000 square foot multifamily dwelling with 39 dwelling units and 36 parking places. This has been on our agenda for quite a while. We have seen it a number of times, both in the planning board workshop meetings and also twice at planning board meetings in January and March. Since this has been a presentation before, I am asking the presenters to take 6 minutes instead of the 10, since you've presented before.
Yeah, Nell, just to quickly jump in, there wasn't a PowerPoint submitted for this, but this is also a project that's been submitted and presented to the board on multiple occasions.
Right, it's exactly what I said, yes.
Yep. So just in the spirit of that, we did receive a waiver request for some of the parking dimensional requirements for the proposed internal parking garage. So I'm going to quickly go through that waiver request as part of the application. Then I can also go through the development review criteria, and there will be an opportunity for public comment as well as part of this. I will leave that to the board if they would like to do that first, or if they would like to do that after me presenting this information.
I think you should present the information first, but I'd like you to go through it quickly. We're very familiar with the development plan review criteria. I think you should just highlight that without having to repeat it verbally, word for word. And of course, the waivers of the parking, which again, we've seen before as well, at least in the last planning board workshop.
Will do. I will try to keep it brief. So when reviewing this application, it was discovered that the some of the parking spaces within the internal parking garage do not meet our dimensional requirements within a specific section of the code. That code kind of lists out different components of parking that an applicant is required to align with. The first is parking stall depth. The requirement for 90-degree parking is 20 feet. The applicant is proposing 18. And then for the access aisle width, the requirement is for at least a 20-foot width, and then the proposed width is 18 feet. So these are the 5 waiver review standards. I will go through them. The first is whether granting a waiver would create an undesirable change in the neighborhood. This waiver relates to parking stalls and aisles that are located in an internal garage, so it's not going to create an undesirable change or detriment to nearby properties visually, and any transportation impacts are going to be limited to the site itself. The second waiver request review criteria is whether the benefit sought can be achieved by another means feasible. The applicant could have used a combination of parking stall angles to meet the requirements, but that could have led to increased conflicts and confusion for motorists within the garage, and could have resulted in more negative impacts for prospective residents as opposed to granting the waiver. Additionally, they could have reduced the amount of parking provided on the site, but that would have potentially necessitated a waiver to for a more limited number of parking spaces. So again, that would result in a waiver request, which is currently the situation that the applicant is in. The third review criteria is whether it's substantial. The waiver component for the parking space depth is not substantial because 18-foot parking depths are permitted under the International Building Code as compact spaces, and the smaller access aisle widths are normal and permitted in other communities as well. And again, since it's only for one-way traffic, the larger widths are not necessarily required in order to ensure the safety of motorists within the garage. Number 4 is whether it'll have an adverse impact on the environmental conditions of the neighborhood or district. As I mentioned with the first review standard, it's set back from Hackett Boulevard, and it's addressing elements of an enclosed garage on private property. So there are not going to be any transportation impacts on the community or along Hackett Boulevard. And then the 5th is whether the difficulty was self-created, which can be relevant, but does not preclude the granting of the waiver. The site is somewhat constrained based on a construction easement for the Beaver Creek sewer line that runs in the front of the property, which prevents a larger building footprint to meet the dimensional requirements, which is not a self-created difficulty. So again, this is the justification for that waiver. Does anyone have any questions on those?
Those are pretty straightforward. Any questions? Okay, let's move on.
Okay. The first is whether there'll be any adverse impacts on the neighborhood. for the overall project. Negative impacts have been addressed through the addition of stockade fencing along the side lot lines with properties that are on Crown Terrace, and the retention and proposed addition of trees along the Besh Avenue frontage to reduce the visual impacts that have been noted by residents. Whether the project would create risks to the public health or safety, it's received review and approval by the majority of city agencies. The addition of conditions that'll be listed later on, addressing all comments from the Division of Traffic Engineering, Albany County Department of Health, and New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. Ensuring that those will be addressed will further ensure the safety of this project. The third is whether it's consistent with any relevant prior approvals or conditions, and there are no prior approvals or conditions that the project needs to comply with. The fourth is whether it's consistent with the comprehensive plan. This area is located in a regional activity center along a mixed-use corridor. It's a proposed residential use, which meets the intent for the area. The fifth is whether it's consistent with any provisions of the USDO and City Code, and through the inclusion of the listed conditions and the granting of the waiver for the parking dimensional requirements, it will be consistent with all provisions of the USDO and City Code. And finally, there are again no prior requirements or conditions that the proposed project needs to comply with. As part of the development plan review approval, there is a recommendation for 3 conditions. The first being, prior to the approval of building permits for construction activities, the applicant must receive approval for the Division of Traffic Engineering. The only remaining comments were related to ensuring that the proposed truck routing plan used the appropriate street to access the site, which would be accessing it via 787 and then through Morton Avenue onto Holland Avenue. The applicant has submitted the updated plan. It just has not been finalized with the Division of Traffic Engineering. The second is that prior to the approval of building permits for construction activities, the applicant must receive approval of the plans and reports related to the proposed sewer extension from the Albany County Department of Health and the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. This was language pulled from the conditioned approval that was sent over by the Water Department. And third, this was referencing comments that came up during the workshop 2 weeks ago, that the applicant must submit and receive approval from the Department of Planning and Development for an updated landscaping plan that includes non-deciduous trees along the Besh Avenue frontage that adequately screen the property and meet the standards of Section 375-4063A2 of the USDO. And this is just ensuring that the non-deciduous trees are ensuring that they are not an invasive species.
Okay. All right. Any comments or questions to Zach on the conditions or the development plan review? Okay, hearing none, are there any members of the community who would like to speak?
I know there's at least one speaker, so I will start with that speaker. So bear with me as I just switch over to the timer.
Okay, and I want to remind the speakers of the late hour, but also that you heard the important items concerning conditions, which includes screening, which includes a fence, and which includes the entrance and exit on Hackett Boulevard. So those are items that will be taken care of. So if you can limit your comments to anything else, we can move forward.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Feel free to start whenever you're ready.
Yeah, so I'm Brian Pentecost from 3 Crown, next to the proposed structure. Issues relating to privacy fencing and plantings were raised at prior meetings by the chair. So a related issue is privacy of a proposed rooftop terrace. This is a major concern for me if the project goes ahead. The current floor plans have a rooftop terrace on the west end by Crown. Earlier in the year, this party place was over on the Holland end and has been moved. The new location potentially overlooks 1 Crown Terrace from way above. I haven't noted discussion of this at previous board meetings. I don't know how the building code handles this. I think the sight lines to me at 3 Crown are blocked by an elevator shack, which is good, but noise will carry. 1 Crown is going to be more affected. Steps to preserve the peace, privacy, and tranquility of Crown Terrace residents needs to be clearly addressed. So second, I'm looking for clarification on the content of space between my lot at 3 Crown and the proposed building site at completion. During construction, there'll be excavating close to my property line and then building. It's not clear whether the area between my lot and the proposed structure will be filled or left as open as a deep cutting at completion of construction. The plans have graphics of external finish at this end of the building, the apartment building, as though it might be freestanding. And the April 13 rendering has an open gap down between the apartment building and the wall by 1 Crown. So that's going to be open. The main point here is that for anything other than fill, then measures are needed to make sure that the end of my lot doesn't slide. The detail available to me is limited and not totally self-consistent in the materials available. Final point. Okay, so the renderings in the accessible archive seem somewhat disingenuous in places. The 413 version lacks any indication of the rooftop terrace, though this was in the 322 version. In addition, the plans that I see, the proposed apartment building is set about 4 feet above Hackett on a new embankment. You don't see this in the renderings. It is seen from contours marked on construction plans and from side views, including in plans for the garage entrance roadways. I think this embankment will increase the bathtub effect for Crown and Clare Barton areas of Hackett and summer thunderstorms and increase the risk of flooding in adjacent properties. So I don't think the water retention systems in the proposed structure accept water directly from Hackett, and for sure, the filed engineering runoff projections in the website don't address the specific sewer overloading, flooding, inundation that happens every couple of years on Hackett. I suspect that stormwater and flooding is an important issue for residents in the area, though I suspect the storm sewer issue is distinct from the what's addressed in the application for runoff. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Other speakers?
Yep, at least one. Bear with me as I pull them up. Ms. Lundgren, are you there?
Yes, my only comment is just that this is a large building around residential single and 2 and 4 family homes. And I do hope those concerns are addressed. There are a lot of other vacant spaces and vacant buildings in this area, large offices due to COVID. And it would have been nice if one of those other spaces could have been used for this scale of project. But I think just addressing the neighbor's concern is critical. Thank you.
Other speakers?
No other speakers at this time.
Okay. There was a couple of items that were brought up by the gentleman on Crown Terrace that I would ask that those be addressed by the Mr. Stein. Can you comment on them?
Mike, are you there? Michael Roman?
Yep. I just had on mute.
Do you want to address any of those? And I can fill in the rest.
Yeah. Can you put those back on? Zach, we can kind of go over.
Yeah, bear with me just one.
There was the issue of the rooftop terrace. There was a concern about how much vegetation is going to last between.
No, it's the speaker, Michael, he wants us to address.
Any of the rebuttals that you have.
So, yeah, so I mean, I guess everything we've taken into consideration as far as the rooftop terrace, that was changed and altered because of egress requirement for the stair. But really for everything else that we've done, we've kept to the design and style of the building, including landscaping. And I know it wasn't one of his comments, but along Besh, we have the fence, and we have the white pines that are going to be placed along there as well. So I think we've listened and addressed all of that and implemented that into the current plan that is being presented to everyone.
It's not Besh that is a concern. It was Crown Terrace. How much vegetation And where is your line versus the first house on Crown Terrace, and how much of the vegetation is going to last there? And I know you're putting a fence up there, but what about the vegetation?
Yeah, so I mean, for the most part, the vegetation that's going to be there, obviously on their property stays. And as we come down our property, we have the fence. And then we also are going to have, there's not a lot of space between the building and the fence. But in some areas that we are going to provide some planting along there. But for the most part, as you can see on our site plan, the building does come up along that property line. And as we get closer to the edge of the road, that's where we'll have some more landscaping.
So Mike, the Brian wants to know the neighbor, what's supporting the fencing? How does it make sure, first of all, we are filling everything in, and there will be, the ground will be stable. And there'll be plenty of shoring during construction to ensure there's no movement of property. And the fence is usually secured with deep concrete underneath and driven in, so that it's not a flimsy fence as in my other properties. It's very stable. You can run into it and it's not going down. The poles are driven in. The second point is the terrace itself is not overlooking Crown. It's very set back on the roof itself. And on the other properties that we have similar roof decks, and you can't see over the edge. You're a good 4 to 6 feet back from the roof lines itself, and it's very difficult to see except for a couple of lights, any activity on the roof deck, and anybody on the roof deck does not see any activity down below for sure. It's an outward look. And there's never been a noise complaint. I see that from Brian as well. And it's usually, most of the people up there are just hanging out, and a lot of here and at the hospital for the staff, the residents, they just study. So it's not a party deck. It's more of a study and relaxing or sunbathing deck. And we have lounge chairs and sitting chairs. It's not for congregation of groups of loud parties or such. And I'm actually in one of the apartments below, right below the roof deck. There's not a lot of movement, and there's no noise whatsoever that I hear, even when it's being occupied by more than a few people.
Okay, we'll move on then.
And as I said at the neighborhood meeting, I'm more than happy to continue to go to neighborhood meetings, be part of neighborhood association, and work with everybody both before we start construction and during it, and availability. Again, I'm in the neighborhood, so I want everybody to be as happy as possible and get along and making sure it's as little put out of the way as possible.
Also, I understand from previous meetings, Zach, this is to you, that the development of the major water and sewer line that's going to go there and also relate to the property across the street on Holland Avenue is actually going to help with the major drainage in that low spot. Is that correct? That has always been an issue, and I mean, it seems like everybody's an expert about this, but the Department of Water and Water Supply, I believe, is working on substantial mitigation of that, both as it relates to the Beaver Creek outflow, what's going on in Lincoln Park, as well as the development of this combined water sewer excavation and development that's relating to both this building and the one across the street, if it ever gets built.
Yeah, so the project that you just mentioned within Lincoln Park is a larger project that's looking to support the improvements of the Beaver Creek line as well, since when that gets to the Hudson River, that is a large source of stormwater overflow. So There are improvements being made near the site. I can't speak specifically to if there are improvements being made to the line right in front of the property itself, but there are improvements being made. And as the water department reviewed this, they were ensuring that it's not going to create more stormwater and drainage issues above the 10-year storm if the site was undeveloped. So the site is currently undeveloped, so it is looking to at least meet, if not exceed, the stormwater carrying capacity of the site as it currently is right now. We did get a question from a member of the public who was asking for the timeline of construction, which is 1 year. That was provided in their development plan review application. And just to the board members, we did get a request from someone to speak as well. So I will leave that to the board if we want to allow for another public speaker.
I think we've pretty much finished. It's getting very late. I think that we've covered almost all the bases. So I would want to cut off the continued discussion because I believe everything's been pretty much taken care of. If that's approval, if that's okay with the rest of the board, do I have a consensus on that?
Yes, I'm okay with that.
Okay. All righty. We have a number of items. The first one is recommended action on a negative declaration on the State Environmental Quality Review Act. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded for negative declaration on seeker. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. That passes unanimously. The second item is recommended action for waiver of the parking dimension requirement in the parking garage.
So moved.
I have moved, and who was that?
Martin.
Okay.
Second by Roman.
Seconded by Roman Kuchera. Further discussion? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Passes. The final item is action for the project, which is to approve the project with specific conditions. Those being the ones that were read, and I'll reread them for the record. The condition number 1 is prior to the approval of building permits for construction activities, the applicant must receive approval from the Division of Traffic Engineering. The second item, condition number 2, is prior to the approval of building permits for construction activities, the applicant must receive approval of the plans and reports related to the proposed sewer extension from the Albany County Department of Health and the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. And the third item, condition number 3, for the applicant must also submit and receive approval from the Department of Planning and Development for an updated landscaping plan that includes non-deciduous trees along the Besh Avenue frontage that adequately screens the property and meets the standards of USDO 375-4063A small II. Do I have a motion to approve the development plan with those conditions?
So moved.
Is there a, I heard a second.
Chris, yes, Chris Ellis, second.
Thank you, Chris. Further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Okay, it passed unanimously. Thank you very much. We will move on now to the, I believe.
Thank you.
The final project, are we on?
second to last. The last two are concept reviews.
Yes, we're on 257 South Pearl Street, the Capital City Rescue Mission. This is a concept review. This project we saw briefly at the Planning Board workshop meeting, and this is to consolidate some lots and also a demolition of a structure at 80 Trinity Place. And this is in the MU mixed-use form-based South End area. The proposal is also to construct a approximately 31,000 square foot 4-story addition to expand the existing group living on the property. Is Dan Hirschberg the representative on this one as well?
Yes, I am, sir.
Okay. This
Daniel
is a concept.
Hirschberg, the firm of Hirschberg and Hirschberg, and I think logged on all is Perry Jones, but I'll try to make this presentation and keep it as concise as possible given the hour of the night. I think all you are aware of the Capital City Rescue Mission and what it does. And I was instructed to invite every member of the board to come down and visit the mission whenever they want. All they have to do is contact Perry Jones and he'd arrange for that visit. He's very proud of the operation, and I think deservedly so. Next. This is the existing condition plan. It shows the main building, which occupies most of the site. This includes a couple of additions made over the year, including the chapel and food preparation space, etc. Next. This is the demolition plan. We're going to demolish the 1-story building. And we are removing some asphalt pavement on the site too. And next. This is the site plan. This shows everything in orange is what will be the one building, all connected, that will serve the purpose of the Capital City Rescue Mission. That includes all programs, food, sleeping accommodations, all the issues that have to do with the services that Capital City Mission provides. We have reviewed the street trees. There was one comment made by the city forester that there are a couple of trees along South Pearl Street, which he wants us to remove. They happen to be ash trees that are subjected to the ash borer and probably won't live very long. And we've agreed to replace those with an acceptable street tree. We're going to replace those at the request of the forester. That's our landscape plan. That's where I show that. And we're adding a number of planters around the site as street furniture. We also proposed to add a trash barrel, and the condition was made there that the city's okay with that, provided the mission takes care of maintaining the trash barrel and dumping it. So we think it's a necessary addition just to keep people from depositing their stuff on the street. Next. And this is the architect's view of looking down north along Trinity Place. You're standing between Madison Avenue and Arch, looking down Trinity Place, and the white building sticking out is the new addition, and the red building is the existing building that remains. Next. And this is a view of the building from Trinity and Place and Arch. The building is the building that shows over the roof of the building that will be retained as part of the Capital City Rescue Mission. Next. This is a view from South Pearl Street and Arch of the existing operation. And then I have a view along Arch Street, which shows a few street trees along there and there. And the building on the lower left is the building to be demolished. It's a small building recently built by Capital City Rescue Mission, which is not necessary for the operation anymore when they can replace it with this new dormitory. And the view from Arch Street and Trinity Place without the new addition on it. Next. This is a section drawn through the building. This is the south elevation looking from the south. You'll see the four-story building is there, and because of the grade difference, it appears smaller looking from Trinity Place than from the back, and it blends in pretty well with the profile of the building for 257 South Pearl, the existing main building. Next. And this is a view from the north. This doesn't have the building in front of it rendered there, but you can see where the grade difference is, where it's actually 3 stories along Trinity Place and 4 stories at the rear. It's called a 4-story addition because all 4 stories are habitable. Next. And this is a view from the south with the existing building section. So this actually shows the section of the building and how it meshes in with the existing building, which is going to remain. Next. And this is the first floor plan, which shows you a number of program spaces. There's need for program spaces, additional dining space. It also has a patio sticking out on the left side of the rear, which will be developed so that they can have outside events on the patio. And the building is accessible for both Trinity Place as well as internally through the building from South Pearl Street. And there are actually a couple of entrances from Trinity Place. Next. And this is a good second floor plan. It's the second floor plan, but the first floor on Trinity Place. And that shows the use of the building with a number of mixed uses on it, all for the purposes of supporting the Capital City Rescue Mission needs and providing dormitory space, which is needed. Third floor also has significant beds on it. The situation here is that the number of people served by the Capital City Rescue Mission will not change. People are aware now that at the Pearl Street address, Prairie Jones provides housing, and the Capital City Rescue Mission provides housing for a number of people that are in the program. Some are recovering, some are just people that are homeless that need a place to stay. And other are people that come in under a code blue, which is when the building gets its maximum use, where people are directed to come here to get out of the cold. Consequently, there are a number of people that don't have a bed. They have a mattress on the floor, and that's where they sleep. This is something that Prairie has been trying to work around for a number of years, and this is the opportunity of providing beds for everybody. People will have beds, some storage space for their possessions, and access to more bathrooms. Again, there's a whole bunch of needs here for these amenities of life that we all take for granted that these people just don't have access to. So it's a needed building. It serves the same population that it serves now, and it does provide much more favorable accommodations for these people. I know we're short of time, but I'll try to answer any questions which the board may have.
Okay. This is the concept review, so any questions by the board? I'm imagining one question is the 4th floor. It was brought up by the staff. I understand that the 4th floor is going to be held open until it's needed. Is that correct?
That's correct. They not decided the use of it. If the plan for beds needs, we'll come back and add additional beds. But if there are other uses that are needed in the interim, Capital City Rescue is relocating administrative from the building be demolished, and there's some other relocations taking place inside Capital City Rescue Mission. So they're not sure. They may actually have to have some administrative office on the 4th floor, but right now it's shown as vacant.
Questions from the board? Okay, this is a concept plan, so when it gets more settled and we get more reports from the professional agencies, we'll consider that in the next meeting.
Thank you very much.
Okay, the final item on the agenda is the one with the largest largest project actually, and that is number 0118. And this too is a concept plan, and it is for the development of approximately 283 units, I believe it is. I'm looking for my last piece of paper here. 14. Conversion of a 243,000 square foot warehouse into 298 units. An expansion of the parking lot. The developer is Redburn Development, Jeff Buell. Are you still awake?
Bear with me just 1 second. I'm just promoting Jeff and Joe to panelists.
I should be good to go. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
I fell asleep, Al. Sorry.
I didn't.
I'll say that I am as tired as you are, and so my goal here tonight is, really just want to orient you to, what we're hoping to do down here. This project is changing on a daily basis, and I think I want to point out as we start that I'm anticipating 4 or 5 months in front of you guys. So I'm looking for some feedback as we come along. We've been working with staff, and I'll just jump into this, and we can see where we land quickly and go from there. So go ahead, Zach. So this is the overall site. We are in an MUFW zoning code here. The proposed use is multifamily, residential, and commercial. We are absolutely, since we made our initial submission, we are shifting to a stronger mixed use programming in this building. So we've dropped a number of apartments. We're going to get you guys an updated number. We've also added more than 25,000 square feet of commercial space back into the building. We have some really exciting uses. We have signed LOIs from a group from Brooklyn that'll be opening up a retail space in this project, and a couple of other local, more suburban uses that are going to be shifting urban. So we're feeling good about that. Go ahead, Zach. Here's a site plan. For the most part, the front of the building, we're going to do a little dressing up of the street front. Erie is a little rough on the eyes. I've been biking down there every day and changing my tires quite often. In the back side of this space, we are going to do a tremendous amount of greenscape improvements. There's actually a significant amount of green space behind the building between it and 787. It is not all owned by the subject parcel. New York State is an owner as well. We are quite confident of some long-term improvements to both the land that we would be acquiring and what is owned by New York State. Go ahead. The residential conversion right now, you're seeing basically that orange tan color is what would be apartments. I would say that this is shifting a little bit. I'm going to take a few more pieces out of this by the next time that you see this. We are trying to transform this building into a living space amenity that is available to everyone to live in. So I want to be very cognizant of some of your comments. The last time I listened to this on the workshop, and just point out that what we're trying to do here, and we had a big meeting today talking about setting rents. We are going to have apartments in this building that will be as low as $800 a month. And they will be enjoying amenities in the building that include swimming pools and gyms and the commercial spaces, a movie theater, an art gallery, laundry in every apartment, running tracks on the exterior. It is a very, very immersive program in this building that I can tell you we feel quite confident that many, many people are going to want to live there. So this tan white color, that's going to be switching. Zach, if you flip it, we're going to go and show the commercial space just in the inverse, I think. Oh no, Joe's got some pictures on here. And I want to thank Joe and our team for going out last week and taking pictures again with the snow that has melted. This is a much more enjoyable view. You can see, obviously this building is quite historic, built in the late 1800s, and these giant factory windows are going to provide for some really cool living experiences. The picture on the left-hand side is one of the finished spaces on the upper floor of the building. I'd encourage you, everybody knows Huck Finn, everybody knows the business that exists there. But if you take a stroll through some of the spaces and you start to look around at the historic pieces of the building, they are quite spectacular and play well into the programming that we are improving on by the day. So, and the picture on the left, these will turn into apartments, and these old industrial doors will play into the spaces, and it will be a very funky space to live in. Go ahead, Zach. This is the inverse of the commercial space. We are calling for, at a minimum, we will be at 15% commercial space in here. That is so that we can use the 45A program instead of going to the city for a pilot. The new state law requires that 15% of the project be commercial space. So that is existing space. So we will end up being at least 37,000 square feet of commercial space in the entirety of the building. I anticipate my best guess is that that's going to be 5 separate commercial uses. And you can imagine the programming that it'll take to get to there. Go ahead. So if you're, this is a great section view through the warehouse space. The lobby is going to be spectacular. If you look on the picture on the right, that's or on the left, I'm sorry. On the left, you have the main entrance to Huck Finn as it currently exists. That will maintain as the warehouse, as a warehouse vibe and look. One of the early challenges of this project for us was dealing with the State Historic Preservation Office and making sure that we maintain the viability of the warehouse look so that we can access historic tax credits. The picture on the right will function as the main lobby to the building, but with a little bit more light coming into it. And then on the left-hand side of the right-hand picture would be one of the commercial area uses. When you walk into this building right now, I would urge you to walk down and look at it. You have 32-foot ceilings in the main warehouse space. That will remain wide open, and the entirety of it shifting all the way back from west to east will be one giant commercial user with the apartments spanning off from the right and the left. Go ahead. So the parking area, the initial front screen said 185 spaces, but we actually have 330. We are very cognizant of the fact that the warehouse district is not walkable at this moment. I mentioned that earlier in one of the previous presentations I spoke in favor of. Much work is needed to be done in the warehouse district to make it a walkable community. We believe that we are going to really hone in on that with our current project at 930 Broadway. That should start construction in July. We have additional projects we are currently looking at in the warehouse district that I would hope to bring to you by the end of the year. And then we have this behemoth of a project. We have been talking with staff about the potential of doing some private side improvements on the infrastructure of the street, particularly along Erie Boulevard. I am an avid biker, and I see the necessity for the improvements on that street. And if we can help out there, we're going to try. We have 330 spaces on the site plan right now. We are working to hone in on the correct balance of uses. And that includes the fact that, we've been pretty adamant that we don't want the playland to necessarily shift. And so we do have some balancing to do on the parking. Next slide. Yep, same thing. I think for the most part, everybody's got it. That rear space picture on the right-hand side is currently not striped for parking, but there's enough space there to do it in an efficient manner. Go ahead, Zach. And then the green space, we've talked a lot about this. I will say that I had a meeting with the mayor a couple of weeks ago, and then with Brad as well, where I wanted to volunteer that when we initially started looking at this, I got enamored with the warehouse building itself. And then what I perceive to be the relatively short distance between it and the Hudson River, and the potential for improvements over the next 20 or 30 years. And part of that is the green space here between this and the current 787. We will be doing our part. We'll have a 1/4 mile walking track around the space. There'll be plenty of landscaping. We're looking to do some community gardens in the vein of Victory Gardens in Boston, which is a nonprofit community garden where people rent out small spaces and do their own gardening. And it's a fascinating space to walk through. We'll have a dog park and a number of different improvements. We're also working with FW Webb to the south of us to figure out how we can be good neighbors with them. But if you flip the next slide, Zach, you'll kind of see the green space as it exists is jungly, but it has the opportunity to be some pretty spectacular space there. So I just went 1,000 miles an hour due to the time of the day and the fact that I genuinely think we're going to be here for the next couple of months taking feedback. I wanted to give you my overview and why we're pretty pumped up and excited about this. We're obviously big believers in Albany. We're over 100 million. We're over 100 million spent in the last 2 years, and I can foresee us doing another 200 over the next 2.5. So we're here. We want to be good partners, and I'm ready to have some good discussion on this project, whether it's tonight or future meetings.
Board, any discussion? I guess one thing I would say is that it sounds like you talk about the building being an immersive project for the residents, which sounds like basically they're going to pretty much be self-contained and then move out into the rest of the world by hopping in their cars and going someplace, because right now I guess I have to be convinced that the area is hospitable for residences, unless, like you say, you make it a true self-contained experience, because you have a lot of obstacles, including the railroad tracks. I mean, to get to get over to the rest of the warehouse district is pretty daunting, and
yes.
There's a lot of pretty heavy stuff that you have to overcome.
Yeah, I think we've been since we met with staff about 6 weeks ago, and that comment was shared by some other people. I immediately owned the fact that I had not paid enough attention to it, and we are studying it quite aggressively. I agree with certain pieces of it, and then on other sides, I would say I don't think it's as bad as we all think it is. But I'm playing with a deck of cards where I'm seeing other pieces, and we're trying to insert ourselves there. And I think that my gut tells me we're going to see some incredible growth in the warehouse district over the next couple of years. And this is, I don't want to do the stay tuned, but stay tuned.
Yeah, because this is not very far from the center of the warehouse district. It's just the fact that the railroad tracks are in the way. You can get
and it's like, the mayor made a really fantastic point when I was chatting with her about it, which was like, if I want to go over to 9-pin, the fastest way is actually as the crow flies, and how do you stop people from going over the railroad tracks there? And then or maybe you want to thrust walkability into the warehouse district and work with CSX. So, we're having some conversations at a bunch of different levels. I think there are solutions here, and I want to be very cognizant of the fact that I'm on the mayor's COVID rebuild committee, and I don't think that the solutions here are necessarily publicly funded. I think that there's a way to go about doing a bunch of different things here that we can do creatively, and be cognizant of. Yeah, it's great to have a self-contained building, but also I choose not to develop in Clifton Park for a reason, and want to actually create walkability when we can do that.
Well, if you can get CSX to cooperate on anything,
I'll retire
to a God status.
Yes, exactly. And just a minor clarification there. It's actually CP Rail, so I don't know if they're any easier to deal with than CSX, but.
Okay, maybe.
Rail is rail, right?
Yeah, right. All big monster companies from far away.
Any other thoughts, questions? Okay.
Some of the board members had questions related to light and air for some of the proposed units that are kind of more interior to the building. Jeff, I didn't know if you had any kind of comments on how that was going to be.
Yeah, I've been thinking about how I want to best show you how we're going to do it. And I think if anybody wanted to go on a field trip, what I would do is say I would invite you to the Kenmore Hotel that we just finished, where we have about 20 units right now that would be the same that they were worrying about in this building. And I would show you how we performed it at the Kenmore. And then I would bring you down to the Huck Finn warehouse, and we've got some fascinating 3D renderings that we can show. And when you look at it, it's like, holy cow, that might just work. So I'm like half wanting to show off the Kenmore and half wanting to show you that we are indeed thinking about all of this.
We have one comment from Chris Ellis that he would like to do that, and perhaps you can arrange Zach with Jeff to take a look at the Kenmore and even maybe do more of a Huck Finn's walkabout too.
Yeah,
so
I would love to do it.
You can coordinate that and let us know. That'd be great.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, we'll just have to stagger that just for open meetings law. But yeah, happy to work to set that up for either one side or both sides.
Okay. Any other comments? Well, I'll entertain a motion then to adjourn, as my computer iPad is just about dying anyway.
So moved.
Move to adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank everyone. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Have a good night.
Bye. Have a good night. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Too.